So we got a couch.
Cool thing, it pulls out. I know.
It gets out there fucking What's wrong with you?
You know what I'm saying? Boys.
And there it is.
I knew. I saw you looking at me.
That's how he starts the podcast every time, just boys. And he didn't give it to us last time, and I was so upset.
All right.
I love the opening music. It feels.
You know,
like
you're the first person that said that.
No, I like it.
Me
man.
and him put an hour and a half into that one day. You know, that little jingle came with the pod track. It was like already programmed in, but he cut up pieces of our podcast from earlier casts, and we put those little snippets into that. It took us like
I feel like I'm on Jimmy Fallon or something.
Dude.
Thank
Hell
you.
yeah.
I was like,
Once
thank you for
start
saying
going,
that.
yeah, it feels
just
good.
thank you for noticing that, because
Absolutely.
we put a little time into that.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, Lancer from 94.1 WOTT.
How we doing, man?
Well,
The only station that really rocks.
Thank you guys.
Whoa, that was good.
I've been practicing.
Yo, Lance, you better watch that job security, man.
I know.
It's coming for you.
No,
Is
that's
that what
Oz,
this
that's
is?
Oz's job right there.
Oh, is
so,
it?
So Oz better watch out. No, man, we're stoked to have you, man. This is like
Can you do the EA game? EA Sports.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
That was spot on.
It's
Dude,
the
that was-
microphone. It's the
No,
microphone.
it's not. That was pretty good. It's the beard.
was
It's
good.
the cigarettes, I
God,
think.
that's nice.
Yeah, no, that was really good. But no, Lance, legit, this is all we've been able to
Yeah.
talk about for the past few weeks.
I'm
We've been
excited,
very
man.
excited about this.
After you guys came on the show, I was flattered that you guys wanted me on, and I've been cramming a little bit and watching the show this week, and I love just it's great what you guys are doing and bringing some life to the the music scene and everything like that, and I
Every scene.
Yeah,
around here.
well, and
we
I-
don't
I-
just focus on the music.
but
mean,
I
if you wanna-
love the feel of it, man. You guys, it's very natural and organic. So yeah, thanks
Well,
for
I
having
think,
me on.
Absolutely. I think we're super excited because it gives you a chance to step out. Because usually you're
Yeah,
the
I
one
don't-
interviewing other humans,
Yeah.
and now you get to be like you're on the hot seat now. So
Dude, it's been a weird year. This is the third time I've been interviewed in the last like 6 months.
really,
Yeah, and I haven't been interviewed
well,
at
I
all
saw
before that.
there was a big article.
Well,
who-
you interviewed us first.
No, that's what he does
I
for
got-
his
yeah.
living.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But I saw there was some article
The
about
Watertown Daily Times did an article on Oz and I, and it
Yes.
was out on Memorial Day. And then this website, allaccess.com, did a Zoom interview with
Yep,
me.
yep. I watched that one too, man.
Which was cool. So, and then you guys bringing me on. This one I like more because I'm all about community. I'm all about the people that you interact and see on a daily basis.
Same. That's the point.
Yeah.
Of this.
So that's I was a little nervous coming in too, man.
I
Oh,
kind of like
dude.
the.
Wow, that's crazy to hear.
I like that there's no agenda to this either. Like we can really like it's just sitting out, hanging out, and talking whatever we talk about.
That's what I
comes up.
like, yeah.
Like we're not trying to promote anything. We're just
Yeah.
what do you have to say, and we're gonna record it for.
And
an
you were
hour.
on board like right off the bat, like when Brendan hit you up and was like, "Hey, we got this podcast going." I mean, I think we had you booked before you had us on your show.
I think you were booked before
think-
we knew we were doing a podcast.
Yeah, like I think we had you lined up a month in advance, and then you were like, come down to 94.1.
Yeah.
We'll plug it on the radio.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
There's a list on there somewhere where
Yeah.
where Lancer's name is like in capital letters because I think he would be perfect
Right.
for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's-
super cool. You invited us in open arms. You're like, yeah, come on the radio. We'll plug your stuff, and
that's always-
and I'll be here in 2 weeks.
You've always been so cool. That's one of my favorite things about you because 94 Rock gets a lot of listeners.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's a huge radio station around this
Yep.
area, and it was never like, we had a fight. Like if I had messed, like say it was like for like the Northman thing,
Right.
you were always all about like, yeah, come
Open
on in,
arms.
play an acoustic song, come or don't play, just come and just talk
Yeah.
about something. You know what I mean? Like you always have been like that, man.
I mean, all the local radio stations are like that. I mean, Johnny's like that, but I mean, you guys do local licks. That's
Yeah.
on your stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like that's what separates you guys. I mean, it's just like this. Like we don't just have anyone on. You know what I'm saying? We plug local businesses and we try to do for our community what we're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? And
Well, I mean, as far as like having you guys come in and chat or talk about gigs or play acoustically, I mean, I got into radio because I was in a band and thinking, oh, I'll use the radio thing to get signed or whatever, and I'm still in radio.
yeah.
Not really. And,
Here we
and
are.
I feel for once you've been inside like the local scene, and you've seen like what a musician has to go through
Right.
to get their stuff out there. I mean, it's like it's the equipment, it's the practice, and then if you get beyond that, you're playing gigs for whatever you can get.
Pennies on
pennies
the
on the
dollar,
dollar,
yeah,
man.
pennies on the dollar,
and playing original music is even more. There's fewer clubs that are wanting bands to play. It's like, okay, well, you're playing for tickets, so you're playing for your merch, and you're playing for free.
Or you're losing money.
Yeah.
90% of the time you're losing money on it.
Yeah, I mean, Anthrax just canceled their European tour because they're like, dude, the finances don't wash. It's like between the gas,
right.
The travel, it's like we're losing money.
And that's what I was trying to get at. I'm like, when you got us on your radio show, it's like you've done bands your whole life. How many people have hit you up to plug their podcast on the radio?
It's first, man. I
First,
love it.
right?
That's awesome.
But going back to that,
I'm like, that's one. He's like, everyone wants to play acoustic, and you plug their song and stuff. I'm like, we just showed up and like we wanted 8 minutes of your time to say, hey, subscribe to this YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? Lance is gonna be out in a month.
But I want to get your thoughts on that though, because how discouraging is that for upcoming bands that are trying to make it? If a band like Anthrax can't even make it financially plausible to go on tour.
It's
You know what
so
I'm saying?
hard right now, man. You see what's going
It's
on.
almost impossible, right?
Unless you're an established act that's playing arenas.
Like Anthrax was, and they're
Yeah.
still. And that's my point. Like
They probably just didn't conform. They didn't conform to what was
Well,
that band
no,
you were
I mean,
saying
they-
the other day? What's A Day to Remember? They started doing things with black
Like Marshmallow.
Marshmallow and the
yeah.
DJs and stuff. Like these guys
Right.
are hardcore metal pop punk straight through and through.
And now they're doing pop
And then they
music.
started to fade off a little bit, and then they were like, "Oh, in order to make money, we got to be on the radio."
Yeah, but think
Hooked
about it
up
like,
with a DJ.
but
You think they wanted to do that? I seriously doubt it.
But think about it like this, Lance. So what was it? 7, 8 years, less than 10 years ago, Anthrax was doing the Big Four shows with Metallica, Slayer, and Megadeth, right?
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, like it was a big tour, and now they can't even make it financially plausible to go on tour. Like that's a problem, if you ask me.
A lot of bands are having a problem with the touring thing. It's an incredible amount of money to go on tour. You know what I'm saying? Like it costs an incredible amount of money to go on. I don't care if you're Metallica or how famous. It costs a lot of money to do, even if you're doing a nationwide, let alone over in Europe and
That's
stuff.
all. I understand. That's what we're.
It's
we're
harder. It's harder for the smaller bands, but when
It's impossible for the small. It's hard for the big bands. It's impossible for the smaller bands.
well, the labels aren't putting the money into the
Exactly.
smaller
These
bands
guys have
anymore.
to fund themselves.
And if you think back to like the late 90s and the early 2000s when there was Lollapalooza and there was Ozfest, smaller bands would buy their way onto those tours.
Exactly. It still costs
Warped
money
Tour.
to get
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
To get
you had
on
to
the
pay
tour.
to get on the tour. You weren't even
Absolutely.
making money.
No.
You were making money off your merch if you were lucky.
Right.
And
You
you're
know?
still making negative dollars because how many $25
Well,
T-shirts you
it's-
got to sell
it's
to cover your
gas.
$5,000 a week to
It's
get on
the
this
food
tour?
that you're eating every
Hotel.
day. It's the hotel. You know,
Well, I mean,
it's like,
you mentioned that, Lav, when the Northmen were up. They wanted you guys to pay 50 G's or something like that to go on tour with.
So yes, and that's a insurmountable amount of money for a band
An
like us.
insurmountable. They wanted $50,000. from these
that
guys.
was for like big like
Yeah, like,
6 month long tours.
It doesn't matter. 6-month long tour and you're headlining for major bands, but you still paid 50 G's to get on that tour. How many T-shirts you got to sell to make $50,000?
No, dude, it was more than that. Like our management company put us in with a couple small legs with like Head PE. Remember we came
Right,
in,
yeah.
and we only did 8 dates with them, and that still cost $1,500 just to get on that tour. Just to even have our name on the bill, you know what I'm saying? Then we had to pay for everything outside of that.
I remember getting mad. I went local around here playing cover band. I remember getting mad if a bar didn't want to pay the band over $400. Like, oh, we're only going to give you $400. I'd be like, oh, that's bullshit.
Was it so when you were
People paying 50 G's to get to play 9
but
shows.
No,
It's
that's
crazy.
that was no 50 G's was like what Bad Flower is paying to get on a bill with Shinedown.
But
you know what
dude,
I mean?
that's Bad Flower. Bad Flower's a good band.
They're a great band, but they
are.
I'm not saying like you guys, the Northmen wasn't a good band, but Bad Flower was like semi-established.
well,
you
they
know
were
what I'm saying?
on a label.
Yeah,
They had a
exactly.
number
and
one
they're still paying to go on tour.
right.
They
That's
probably had some
crazy.
investors or something. You know what I mean? Like
We had a great talk about it when Matt Gregory was on the podcast a couple weeks ago. You guys had a great talk about how fucky the music business
Oh,
is.
it's insane.
Oh, the music business is it's worse than it ever was, and it's harder now because you've got streaming services like Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah, the internet is killing
and
everything.
and they are taking advantage of the artists so
Oh,
bad.
100%.
You know, it's like
Wouldn't you?
yeah, but it's just like there's no regulation at all. It's like, you know, if you want to get on YouTube, you got to agree to this to where you're making 0.006 per penny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
For
it's
every-
like a third of a penny a view. So like if you get 200,000 views, you make like $100.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's
But
ridiculous.
what's ridiculous is that people are actually making hundreds of millions of dollars off YouTube.
yeah.
It's like we think about it as like an insurmountable goal. Like, okay, like yeah, we have this podcast. If we get if we woke up tomorrow with 50,000 views on this podcast, $0.
Yeah, no.
But if we woke up in a year and a half from now and this podcast hit 500,000 views, we'd get a check from YouTube for like $55. Like, but have you ever done any? That was what I was trying to get. Have you ever done any promoting? Did you ever get into that aspect of it, or were you always radio?
You know, I never really got into that aspect. I tried to help out bands where I could. You know,
Well, that comes with the job.
every stop that I've been. But yeah, I would try to like hook them up with clubs, and I would try to hook them up with opening slots on.
Let them name drop.
Yeah, you know, I mean, just anything that I could, and I would try to send their stuff off to the labels and management companies that I knew because.
Oh, so you were promoting, you just weren't getting paid to do it.
Yeah, I mean, but just because.
Ghost promoting.
Yeah, dude.
Right?
So the homeboy wanted $10,000 for him to send his shit out to.
I don't want to take
labels.
money from bands are paying enough, you know, for everything else that they're doing. They don't need to pay me because it's like I've probably tried to help 100 bands in all the years that I've been doing this,
And it's a phone call away.
and none of them have like hit pay dirt. You know, you try. There've been a couple that have been close. A band in Southwest Florida got close. I mean, they had a top 25 single. But their label screwed them over. And then there was another band in Louisville, Kentucky. I sent out to the management of Korn, and they're like, dude, this is the record that Korn should have made. But they didn't do anything with it. The band never did anything. You know, it's like you try to help. There's so many bands.
You're like the conduit, and then it's all like you're the plug, but then it's all up to them.
I'm like
and
the middle.
then
Yeah. And then
if you don't produce, you don't produce.
Right.
Did you hear what he just said? He was talking to Korn's label.
That's literally what I was just about to get back to. I'm like, you know, like you're like, oh, yeah, like it's nothing to me to plug, you know, these bands. Like I want to help everyone out because it's just a phone call away. It's not like you have to hop on a private flight to San Francisco.
I'm like, give me a wave, and I send an email to the management or whoever, and they'll.
You don't need to go out to Ohio and meet up with the producers of Columbia Records and be like, hey, these guys are on the come. You make a phone call because you have so many plugs. You've met so many people.
Yeah. I've done this long enough that I know people we at least have a mutual respect where they're like, listen, we'll take it. We'll spend 5 minutes and listen to it.
Okay.
But it's never really helped out. You know, you try to help,
but the one time out of 50 times that it does help, you're still doing.
I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to try to help bands.
Yeah, you're not. It's,
you know, I mean,
it's nothing to you.
Disorder just did that song Worth It, and the first time that I listened to it, I said that. Because there's so much negative shit that's out there, right?
Mm-hmm. Especially when the local band,
right? And that song was like it struck a nerve with me. The positivity and the message, just.
Oh, that's Sammy Jim though. Sammy Jimmy
and Jake DeZormo, dude.
Those are great dudes.
Sam
man.
is just
very good dudes
the
and very
beacon
talented.
of positivity. He's like the light
Well,
at
so
the
is
end of the
Jake.
tunnel.
But
that kid is fantastic.
They're a very faith-driven group of guys, and they're awesome dudes, man. Mm-hmm. So
faith-driven or not, they're just the happiest people I've ever met in my life.
You guys did give that a lot of spins. It was
huge, man.
Dude, it was a great song.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's easy to sell something that you're passionate about, though.
I mean, that's when Oz and I are on the air. Part of what we're salesmen in a respect. You know, we sell the music, and when we get hyped up on it, I think that. There's part of that lends credence to the song, and they're like, oh, well, this guy that I listen to every day, you know, while I'm at work or while I'm around the house or while I'm in the garage or whatever, is all passionate about this. I'm going to spend some more time with it. So it's like, you know, it to me isn't
that bullshit though? Like a little bit. Like this band is good on its own, right? But you didn't think that band was good until I said it was good. But that's with everything.
But
that's social
media.
Bit of
psychology,
that's media. I mean, that's news. That's everything. Like, oh, there's no way, Russia is invading Ukraine. And then Andrew Tate goes, no, they're doing it, and you're like, oh well, shit, there's how many great bands have you plugged? You know what I'm saying? Like these guys are it, and then like you said, they go out there and it goes dry. Like they didn't put the effort in them. They couldn't keep producing or whatever. There's 1,000 factors into.
But that's probably you guys having a simple chat and discussing music, and you probably turn each other on to different things. You're like, oh, I heard this new band, you got to check it out. You're like, oh, I'd heard of them, but now and then you turn around, you're like, wow, that's some really good stuff.
How many times have you said that? Like, this band? Like, I've heard of them, but I've never listened to them. It's like, why didn't you listen to them if you heard of them?
Because I heard their one song that was on the radio and then listened to the rest of the album and it sucked.
Or I heard my buddy mention their band name, but I never went to Google.
That's another
how they
aspect
sounded.
of it. Like a band might have a great song, right? Like Lance, like you get a band on the radio or whatever, and they're like, oh, number one hit single. They'll go top 40, 35 on the top 40 or whatever, and then gone, right? Because they can't keep writing music. That's the thing about Zeppelin, all those old bands.
But
they just stood the test of time.
The industry's different now.
It's it's
because of streaming and because of the immediacy of being able to put music on the web. Bands don't focus on creating a brand. It's all about replicating a hit. So it's like writing a song that sounds like something. That's why you have a lot of bands that sound the same.
Yeah, that's why it's awful though.
There's a lot of it that is. Absolutely. There's a lot of it that is. And it's like they don't really focus on putting an album's worth. Like when you listen back to Sabbath and you listen back to Zeppelin and you listen to Aerosmith, it's like they were putting albums together. Like they were in the studio trying to create an entire atmosphere. When the Who did Tommy, they did these concept albums.
It was a movie.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't a song. They weren't
Yeah.
focusing on a song. It was like, this is the picture, this is the story.
Yeah.
But now it's a single. It's about a single, and then it's like, can you write another single just like it?
Exactly.
Yes.
You got to be hot for a month.
If you release 11 singles in a year, you're way better off than if you were to release 11 songs in an album that year. Because you get to do it once a month, and every time you would you know what I mean?
I remember when Mac Miller, I know this is off topic. I mean, same thing, music production. Where Mac Miller, he's my favorite rapper. When he got signed to Rostrum Records, you know what I'm saying? He got signed to Rostrum, then Columbia offered him. And Columbia is way bigger than Rostrum. I mean, Columbia is like Rush and Tom Petty and all that. And they offered him a deal, and they were like, okay, yeah, like the kids album was a hit, dude. 1.5 billion views. Kids album was a hit, but we need that every year and a half. And Mac was like, impossible.
Well, to that
he's like, I can't be on deadline. You know what I'm saying? So he started his own. He went with he went with his own shit. You know what I'm saying? But it's all relative.
Well, to that same point though, that's turning a lot of bands off from trying to get a record deal if they can release their own musical. What's the word I'm looking for? Independently.
That's what he's doing.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that. It's turning a lot of people off from trying to.
There's 100 people around here that have recordings. Bryant Pinion,
right?
All the people. He was like, I'll just bypass that. He started his own recording company called Sunken Productions.
That's awesome.
And you should hear the shit that he produces for his band. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's radio. It's radio quality.
Well, then get it to me.
Oh no, we will. Oh no, we will.
But again, that's still just hoping that it gets a viral attention off TikTok and YouTube. You know what I mean? Like you have no support from any boosting label or anything if you do it that way. But that's what everybody's doing because
the major
that's
labels aren't even signing rock acts anymore. It's like you look. I mean, it's more
all hip hop.
There's smaller labels that are doing. I mean, you look at Dorothy, who has erupted over the last couple. She's on Jay-Z's label.
Dorothy is?
Yeah. She's on Jay-Z's label.
Yeah, Rockefeller.
I saw Dorothy in 2017 at Carolina Rebellion, and she was playing at like 11:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
And now, that was the first time I saw. What was that band we were just talking about?
Bad Flower.
Bad Flower. Yeah.
And they're on a country label.
Hey,
Bad Flower's on a country label.
They're on a country label.
Get the hell out.
Yeah, but they're
here.
selling records.
No,
Bad Flower's
they are.
band.
But see, that's the thing. Some of these smaller labels and some of these. Jay-Z and this country, I think it's Big Loud or something like that, or Loud. But it's like they're starting to shift their focus a little bit. They're putting more resources into rock than, some of these bigger labels that had been famous for producing all these rock icons like 40, 50 years ago.
Right.
And it's like the smaller labels and some of these different offshoots are doing a much better job of really trying to get behind some of these bands and bring them to life.
Well, I think maybe the record companies are really the record because there's so much music coming out every day.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And I think the record like Columbia was like it was hip hop. I mean back like Tom Petty back then was like classical rock like 93.6.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That was Columbia, and then Columbia came up like when Usher came up, he bought Columbia. You know what I'm saying? And then it was all hip hop and R&B and top 40 hits. Same thing with Atlantic Records. I just think the record companies aren't like singling themselves out for a certain type of music. They're like, there's money to be made off all this shit.
Well, and
that's what you're saying. Like they're like what with Bad Flower, they're like, oh, they're on a country label.
Yeah, they're looking for.
They might be primarily a country label, but they're like, dude, these guys are writing. These guys are writing top 40.
They're trying to. Well, and they also have Aaron Jones on the label too, and that guy's phenomenal. Like he's a great guitar player. Kind of sounds
you
like
guys
Lenny
opened for
Kravitz
Bad Flower, didn't you?
Yeah, but who's
Aaron Jones? He's phenomenal. Like, he's a great guitar player, singer.
Studio guitar player?
No, he kind of sounds like Lenny Kravitz a little bit. Like, he's got.
But does he have his own band, or is he studio?
It's just him. He's got like studio players that are with him.
Okay.
Session
So he's like a dashboard.
But a lot of guys are doing that. I mean, like we listened to that Hardy track. You know what I mean? Like, he was.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
And that's a country guy that's trying to flip to rock, and I think that song's a hit.
Well, it's so much easier to own your own label than it is like it's like, okay, I'm talented. You get 100,000 offers, right?
Right.
But none of them benefit you.
Well,
You get to keep 10% of your music, and we own all this shit. Look at what's her face, Kesha. Got caught up. Britney Spears got caught up in that whole thing. Like, they owned her. They owned her.
Well, they got them at a young age, and it's just like, I mean, the labels are always...
They're always going to do that, whether they catch you at 14 or 28. They're going to try to take advantage.
Labels have been taking, advantage of people since Motown was doing it back in, in the 50s and everything. Like, and it's like they've always tried to take advantage. Have you ever seen? There's this, there's this documentary called, I think it's Searching for Sugar Man. It's a phenomenal documentary, and it's about this folk guy that came about in the 70s, and he released one album, and it kind of sounded, because this guy was a documentarian, and he was like, what should I write about? They're like, you should find about this guy, Sugar Man, because like somebody said he committed suicide on stage or whatever, and he released one album, and it was huge in South Africa.
Posthumously, or
while he was alive? He was alive, but he didn't even know about it. Like, his record was like this folk anti-hero kind of.
But it blew up halfway across the world.
Somebody got a bootleg of it, took it to South Africa where they had apartheid.
And like,
it's just like patriotism.
And this was like the rallying cry album, and it became humongous. And the label that recorded it was making all this money off of this guy, and he was living penniless in Detroit, the outskirts of Detroit. He had to walk like 10 miles to work every day.
If he went across the Atlantic, he'd be a billionaire.
He had no idea, no idea.
Shit.
Wow. So how can that be possible? How can that be legal?
That's music. It is legal. Everyone signs a contract.
I was going to say that's how it's legal, because they wrote a 400-page contract that he wasn't going to read through. He signed the dotted line, and they pretty much said, "Hey, we get 100% of the profit."
You're living on the streets in Detroit, and someone hits you with a packet of paper and like, "Hey, you want $500,000 today? Sign right here." You don't leaf through it. You just sign your soul away.
But then the guy, they found him, told him that his album was huge in South Africa. He was like, the Beatles over there. And I was like, all right. So then he booked a tour, sold out tour of South Africa. Oh, shit. Like, made millions of dollars.
Okay, yeah. So then he eventually got his then.
But then he gave all the money away, and he's just
really?
He's like, I already didn't have it.
Like, he
just wants to stand in front of the crowd and hear him cheer. I get that.
Yeah. But that's how labels take advantage of people, and you don't even know it.
Right. They do, bro. They really do, man. And if especially if they find somebody that's willing to sell their soul for just a little bit of success. Like, I remember when we were talking to Paul Crosby, who managed the Northman for a year.
Right.
He was like, listen, I don't know if you guys know how the industry works. He goes, Saliva never made a dime off our music. The record company gave us $250,000 to sign over every single right of our music. He goes, we didn't make a dime off any record sales. Like, we got that $250,000, and then whatever like we made like touring, anything you heard on the radio, any album sales, none of that came to us.
Well, that's why
if someone offers you an amount of money for your business,
when you're 22-year-old kids, you're gonna take it.
You have to understand one thing. Someone offers you, like, let's say like tomorrow we woke up, right, and our podcast blew up. And someone came up to us.
It's the second time you've said that.
Well, I'm just saying, perfect example.
Don't lose sleep over
and someone
it.
was like, "Hey, your podcast blew up. I'll give you $500,000 today for your whole business, for the rights to this podcast, and you work for me now. You don't work for yourselves." No, if my podcast is worth $500,000, I'd rather just work for myself and make $2 billion.
That's how every business is. They
right,
build
but
it
the
up
musicians don't think that, because they've been sleeping in their vans. You know what I'm saying? Grinding and grinding and grinding, doing all the bullshit. And then someone offers them some money, they just leap at it. You don't even think about it.
Some friends of mine from Southwest Florida.
I'd sell my soul for $500,000 right now.
There was like a bidding
and I don't
war.
even have a band.
Bidding war for them, and Geffen Records ended up getting them for like paid them $850,000 up front in publishing. Signed them, and then they had the guy.
What was the vig on $850,000? Like, what did they have to push to make their nut?
That was everything. And then,
was there a deadline, like 4 years?
No, it was like you go in and you record this album, and they record. Scott Weiland produced a couple of the tracks on it.
Really?
Okay.
The guy who did Drowning Pool's first album recorded the rest of it. So
it took a village, but they got it done.
They got it done, and then they had a song that got released, but then Geffen merged with Interscope,
And Interscope's big, yeah.
And so when that happened, the Interscope people took over the Geffen, and they'd been signed into the Geffen umbrella. And then all of a sudden they kind of got lost.
The umbrella?
And yeah, because it just like, you get...
You get grandfathered in?
So,
okay.
So then all of a sudden they kind of got pushed beside, because you'd have people that wanted to work the Interscope stuff and not the Geffen stuff. They were a Geffen band.
Big ass conflict of interest right there.
So the song was out there. There was a single. And it's like, I'm calling my label friends. I'm like, well, I want to play this record. It's out there. They're like, no, we want you to play this other record instead. It still went top 25 without any label push at all. But the label was telling me not to play it.
What?
Telling me not to play it. And then they never released the album. The band ended up having to buy the rights back just to have...
What? Okay, hold on. Well,
Did they not want to make money off
You
of
might
it?
have lost me halfway through, but why was the label telling you not to play it?
Because they wanted to focus on another band that was releasing at the same time.
They wanted to eat $850,000 and then...
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this one's going to make us more money. Whatever we make off that one's just profit.
Right.
Jesus, what?
You guys understand, too, like $850,000, that's such crazy money. Labels are labels because they have insurmountable amounts of money but no talent. So they find the people that have the talent and they're like, we can buy their talent and then make a shit ton of back
to a local band.
Investment.
Someone coming up on the come up, like I said, they're sleeping in their van, they're going on these tours, they're paying to be on these tours, and then all of a sudden a multi-billion-dollar record company comes in and they're like, hey, we'll give you $500,000. We own you for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get a bag of chips.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But is that how that works?
It's
because I don't think that is. It doesn't make any logical sense. Like, he knows this shit.
But if they see an opportunity, he just said it with 2 other bands. If they see an opportunity with you, he just said the record company just quit on a band that was promising to go to another one.
Here, let him.
Do you remember? Do you remember hearing about like George Michael's sued to get out of his contract? Incubus sued to get out of their contract. Some of these bands, they come in and they sign 8 record deals, right? Mm-hmm. But there's no timetable on the 8 records.
You can sign 8 record deals?
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, hell yeah.
If you just sign one,
They'll
that's
sign
not
it,
like...
No, they give you a contract and they go, here, we'll give you this much money. You owe us 8 records.
Right.
We'll pay for all the studio time.
In this many years. And you can just
Five Finger Death Punch had to do the same thing. There's a lot of different bands that they'll sign multi-album deals.
So like if I think I can handle the workload, I can just spread my shit out all over.
Sevenfold sued Warner Brothers, right?
They sued to get out of their contract, too. Yeah. A lot of bands have done that because... they're like,
I didn't know you could do that.
A Day to Remember did, and they started their own label.
I didn't know you could just apply to 1,000 jobs across the country and just get them.
No, they got an offer, and the Warner Brothers or Capitol Records was like, hey, all right, we'll give you
but then he just said like you can go to another company and be like, okay, like we got to produce 2 albums,
but we don't know why.
For this company.
But there's a reason why. I want to hear what he has to say about that.
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, once the bands realize that you think about a 7-album deal or an 8-album deal. It's like you think, wow, this is going to keep building my career and everything. It's going to be like Zeppelin. It's going to be like Sabbath.
Is that standard? 7, 8 album
No,
deal?
no. It's not standard. But the industry constantly changes. And it constantly changes because of the relationships that radio and records have together.
Right.
And
it's all money.
And a lot of it depends on what's hip. Like hip-hop and rap is really hot right now. Country is really hot right now. It's like you see marriages between the two.
Hip hop and country are the same thing right now.
And well, they are.
It's crazy.
They really are.
Yeah.
Like in the last few years or so, like country has really put an emphasis on becoming more of like a top 40 brand. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really sound like country so much, except for maybe like a twang of a guitar or the
right.
It's the voice. It's how you sing it.
Right. Absolutely.
If you sang 3 a.m. by Matchbox 20 like Luke Bryant, it'd be a country #1 hit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, but
look at Taylor Swift.
With the industry changing so often, it's like, you sign a 7-record deal, the first 2 albums go fantastic, but then the industry starts to change a little bit and the labels are not focusing so much on that particular genre. Then all the money that they've been focusing on you for the first couple of albums, they're redistributing it to a different genre because they're like, we're making more money off of this. So that band that signed a 7-record deal, after the first 2 albums, they realize, well, we're not really.
So the music industry basically has ADHD.
Yeah, but it's all about I mean, it's no different than any other industry. It's like I sit here and it sounds like you're bad mouthing the labels and everything. It's like they figured out a way.
No, I don't think it sounds like you're bad mouthing labels. I mean, you're telling it how it is. There is change and people need to conform to it. right?
It's yeah,
and when
it's-
people don't conform to it, they get the boot.
and they move elsewhere. But the problem for the bands is if you sign, you're like, well, I want out of my contract, and well, we have you for 7 albums. You got to keep releasing stuff. But then they're not putting.
Even if they're not going to back you on it, and even if they're not going to, promote it, and you know what I'm saying? Like, well, you already owe us this. Like, yeah, I know you did the 3 albums, but you owe us 4 more.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But that's why some of those,
contracted.
and I don't think they really do that anymore. I think that the labels, they realize that artists are getting smarter, starting to,
I could never imagine someone signing me a contract and be like, okay, like you guys had, this, you had a number 1 hit single. You just wrote your EP. You had a number 1 hit single.
right.
4-year contract. I need 2 albums. I'd be like, excuse me, 2 years,
Well, no,
4 years, 2 albums. I'm like, that's just not enough time. If you want me to recreate, Killer Queen, or Bohemian Rhapsody,
Well, no,
bro, you
'cause-
gotta give me a fucking minute,
Because
bro.
what Lance is saying, it's almost like they want or they're begging for a one-hit wonder so that they can move
They are.
on to the next.
No, 100
You know what I'm saying?
100
Well, and that's how the industry has changed.
150%.
Streaming changed that. That's why you won't really see bands signing 2, 3, 4, 5 album deals because they don't care about albums anymore.
Because it's not realistic.
Yeah.
Look at Post Malone, look
Well,
at
no,
Justin
'cause they
Bieber and
don't
all those
sell.
guys. Those guys got a number 1 hit single on the radio every week.
Well, most of these bands only release 2 or 3 singles from an album. So why would they want an 11, 12 song album when
It's a waste of time and a waste
only
of
2
money.
or 3 singles are going to get released?
Exactly. Yeah.
And if 2 or 3 get released,
Right.
If you record a fucking 11 song album, and one of your songs blows up and goes on weekly top 40, that's huge.
Yeah, but
let
not
alone
even-
2 or 3.
But not even that. Even most of the people, like I would say, like close to like 60-70% of people that did buy the album are only going to listen to 2 or 3 fucking
yeah,
songs.
but who's
anyway.
buying the album anymore?
There's people
So-
that are doing.
No,
it.
they're
I was gonna say so. This
I
is
there's no
I
one
buy
buying.
albums.
I know you do
In
because
the-
you're a musician and
You buy albums, right, Lance?
I will
Yeah,
say
the
this.
4 people in this room buy CDs
I-
because we understand that
But-
the only way these musicians are making money is if we
There's
do it.
been a groundswell over the last, 10, 12 years, like Record Store Day, it's like really erupted and people are starting to buy vinyl again. That's why you never saw a record, nobody had a record player for like 20 years.
Vinyl's coming back hard.
And it's like now you go to FYE.
Is it though?
It,
Yeah.
it really
Yeah.
is.
No, vinyl's blowing up.
Dude,
Is
dude,
it,
dude,
but
when
is
I
it
told
just,
you, just
is
the
it
other
just
night-
more of a nostalgic thing?
No.
no.
No,
Do you think it's actually
no,
real?
no. Hold on, it's actually I think it's both because
'Cause it doesn't sound good.
a lot of the people that I see, like I've seen it come up. My brother just called me
Sounds
2
way
days
better.
ago, right? And he's
You
got.
think it sounds better?
Way better.
I
It
think
sounds,
vinyl's
dude,
the best.
it's
Really?
it's the
Yes.
rawest form of the song. But a lot of the record players that are coming out now, you see your friend that just bought a record player, like, oh, I'm getting into records. Ask him if it's Bluetooth,
Yeah.
because it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That record player is a Bluetooth speaker. You can hook it up to your phone and play it through there, or you can throw the vinyl on. And either way, you're sacrificing, quality.
You don't get that thump though that you get from like a speaker.
No,
or
dude, that's
sound
what I'm
system.
saying. Ask the Wileys. When I lived next door to Jack and Jim Wiley on Boyd Street over there, dude, you walk into the Wiley's house. I'm talking from the bottom of the stairs, right?
Real record players, yeah, but like the ones that you buy
They
for
had- dude,
$80 at Target.
It was like we need a bigger boat situation. Like you walk into the Wiley's house. I mean, it was 6-foot stacks of records all the way up their stairs to the top floor, and then rooms full of just records.
Yep.
And one record player in the house, right
Yes.
in their living room.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I was like,
So Lance,
and they didn't listen to anything else.
do you think it's the difference between analog and digital? Because with CDs and MP3s and waveforms,
I think it's a huge difference. I mean,
Yeah.
analog.
Well,
on
you lived
vinyl,
through it.
Yeah, I mean, digital. I think Dave Grohl gave a great speech a few years back on the Grammys where he was talking about how much is lost on digital because you can record something and then you can take out a note and then plug it in instead of just playing it live. And he's like, just the imperfection of doing it on analog. It's like, hearing Neil Peart of Rush, who's one of the most phenomenal percussionists in the history of music, do what he does. And then it's like you hear that one little note that's a little bit off, but it just adds to the perfection with the imperfection of that one note.
No,
It's like
AC/DC. I've like watched interviews on AC/DC and like Led Zeppelin and shit back in the day about their recording process, and they said the same thing. They're like, the imperfections are what make us our songs.
Right.
Like no one else noticed it, but this note was off in this verse, but we left it. We knew it was there, but we left it because it was.
Well, and those are great stories too. You know,
Right.
Led Zeppelin recorded Presence in 11 days.
No shit.
In 11
They
days.
rented that mansion
Because they had
and
to get
hollowed
out
it
because the
Yeah.
Rolling Stones were coming into the studio. They only had 11 days and they were
Yeah.
going through like Robert Plant had been into a car accident and everybody was, so they kept condensing the amount of time that they had. So 11 days, they recorded an entire album.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's absolutely
It's
brilliant.
like you're trying to play a cover of Led Zeppelin. Like you have to play the cover of Flaws. Like shit that your ear doesn't agree with that note, but that's how they played it.
Right.
Because
Aerosmith, I think Steven Tyler, they did an album in like 3 days, I think.
It wouldn't
A
shock
week.
me.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was on the Howard Stern show.
It was the what was the song? What that ballad?
Train
that
kept
they
a
did.
roll. Or no, that's no.
I'm just unawake just to hear you dreaming.
No, 'cause that was-
that album. I think he
that
did
was after
I think they
2000.
did it in like a week.
No, but that was after 2000. I'm talking back in like the 70s or whatever. Like
So you're talking.
In Steven
she
Ty-
looks like a lady. Like
Steven Tyler was on the Howard Stern show, and he was like, "Yeah, like we didn't sleep for 3 days."
Steven
like,
Tyler has
something-
also been on podcasts and forgot songs that he wrote.
Okay, but that's fine. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, back then people would finish albums with less than a week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like now,
You
it's
still hear about
now
it
it's
now
like a
with the
year-long
rappers.
process.
You still hear about it now with the hip hop, like you said, hip hop is
Right.
big now.
I
you hear about
think
that all the
that's a-
time. Hip hop, like, oh, I wrote that album in a week.
Yeah,
and it's
that-
like, yeah, because
that-
you have good producers that you're paying a bunch. You didn't write shit.
Not only that,
You
but
didn't
it's
write
like
shit. You got good lyrics and you had a catchy melody, and then you sang one verse and a chorus, and then your producers pieced it all together and made you a fucking gazillion.
I was gonna say when people say they produced a whole rap album in a
fuck
week, it's
you.
like you bought 11 beats and had lyrics written, and where it's like if you do a rock album and you got to track drums, you got to do rhythm,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's
Now-
so many more components than
and
to
now let
do
me
a rock
ask you
album
that because
than-
you're the real deal. You do
I'm
it all.
not at
No,
all.
but you're the real deal. You
I
don't
try to
have,
be.
you don't have famous producers in your musician. How long if you and your band Against Those Best comes up with one song, you guys write a song. How long does it take you to completely record, produce, and get it on the EP?
a long time,
Month and a half?
If we started tomorrow on this one that I've been wanting to work on, it'd probably quickest be out in like maybe a month and
That's
a half.
what I'm saying.
You don't very quick.
you don't
that's
ha-
if we're crushing
You
nothing
don't,
but that.
you don't have the Matrix team behind you
No.
flipping around. You know, you can't just get in there and be like, oh, ha, 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 and then an
have it-
album comes out of it.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, I
so
gotta put in a lot of
Lance, let me
legwork.
ask you this then: how would that have worked back in the mid '90s when you were in your band? Did you? I mean, I'm sure you guys recorded. I know you guys.
What band was he in?
I was in a band called Waxed.
Dude, you saw the pictures at his studio.
And
Well,
we
I didn't know what band it was though.
we
Waxed?
Waxed. We opened up for like the Toadies and Nonpoint and
Hell yeah!
I opened for Nonpoint.
Head PE.
I opened for Nonpoint, and at the what's
You're
it
not
called
our
there?
guest. Shut up. Go ahead.
No, that's
Lance.
awesome. I mean, and
It was relative, man.
it is relative.
I'm trying to level with him.
And then who else did we play with? Chevelle. We opened up for Chevelle.
Whoa,
That's killer.
that's
Hell
really cool.
Yeah, okay,
dude.
that's big. Yeah.
That's
And,
badass.
Are they
you
the
know what I'm
biggest
saying? Like
ones
you
you
guys,
opened
you
for?
guys must have had a record out or an EP or something.
We did an EP, and our bass player was also a producer.
What instrument did you play?
Sang.
He was singer.
I sang.
Lead vocals.
Get out of town.
Yeah. So we did an EP, and we recorded it in Naples, Florida, at this one studio. Our bass player agreed to help produce some other stuff. If we
I
could
got
borrow
pink
the
eye in
studio
Naples
overnight.
one time.
And seriously,
No.
Oh my god.
we would get there at 6:00 in the evening, and we would set up everything, and we would have all nights. So we did overnights, and we recorded from 6 p.m.
Really?
to 6 a.m.
Really?
For like a month, and we recorded our EP. And
How many tracks? Was
Yeah,
that?
how many songs was
there
the
are
EP?
5 songs on it, and we got MCA Records said that they would pay for our next demo. So then they sent
MCR?
us MCA,
Oh.
and they sent us over to, which was the same
Well, I've
label
heard
that
of it.
Nonpoint was on.
Okay.
Yeah, the jacket
So
got me.
They sent us over to Elysian Studios in Miami, and we recorded 2 songs with Jason Beeler, who's used to be in the band Saigon Kick. He was a guitar player.
You were
And-
telling me about that.
And
Never
he
heard of
produced all the
Saigon.
Nonpoint stuff, and at least the first couple 3 albums. And they produced 2 songs, and they sucked, and we kind of went our separate
Yeah,
ways.
but okay, but so a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For 5
5
song
songs,
EP.
yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, like that sounds reasonable.
No, completely
But we
reasonable
were
considering
doing
what we're doing right now with our show.
Was that a 3? Was that
We gave ourselves a month and a half for 40 songs.
I was gonna say
that we're
'cause
learning that someone already else wrote. You're writing music and you got to record 11 songs that you're writing originally in a month. That's insane.
So I feel like that's possible. Like I could absolutely record, produce, and release.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be happy
album.
with it.
No. I feel like I would be, but I couldn't work a full-time job, and neither could Alex or Durs. And that's the thing. It's like I could do all of that if we could be in a house together for 3 weeks.
Right.
But going through the adult life and
Right.
we can only get together for 4 hours on a Sunday.
Like I said,
We're
just-
getting a single out in
Just
2
like
months.
with this band thing, we're like, hey, when can everyone meet up? And everyone's like, well,
Never.
I can't do Monday, I can't do Tuesday, I can't
Yeah,
do
we're
Thursday.
like-
So how old were you during that time, Lance?
Those are my 20s.
Okay, so
So that was what, 8 years ago?
that that before was that before your wife and before kids and everything like that?
Yeah. I mean, well, I met my wife about the same time. And
So year wise, year?
it was 98, 99.
Shit,
we
dude,
were,
I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was what, 2 guitar players, bassist, drummer, vocalist.
It was one guitar player,
player?
bassist. We had a jazz drummer, a funk bass player, a punk guitarist, and then me
Oh,
on
gee,
vocals.
that sounds like
See, that's awesome.
recipe.
So
for
was
awesome.
everybody working, or do you guys just
No,
all had?
everybody was working. That's why we were doing 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's the
Okay.
only time that we could get into the
You
studio.
guys all had full daytime jobs.
Yeah, so we were going and grinding during the day, and then we'd go to the studio and record all night. And we did
Just
that
pretty
for a
much
month.
surviving on 2 hours of sleep a night. Kind
Basically,
of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what it
Well,
takes.
we
That's
were,
what it
we
takes.
we were sleeping in the studio. So it was
Okay.
like if we were
If
tracking
somebody-
drums, I was napping in the next room
Okay.
while they were doing that.
Dude, that's so rock and roll.
and then I would get up and record my stuff. So
it would almost make me upset if you told a different story.
Yeah, that's badass.
Like
as fuck,
that's
man.
rock and roll, man. I
Well,
mean,
that
that's
was-
what they depicted in the movies. You know,
That's what we had to do.
It's just rock and roll.
yeah, but it was fun. It was a blast, man. I had a great time.
What was
And,
the
How
what
many
was the
times-
name of
dude,
the EP?
I remember even
Lance?
Lav.
I don't even think
Like, do you think I'd be
Jake-
able to find it?
no.
Jake's gonna
we,
find
well,
it.
Or
actually,
did you ever,
yeah,
like-
yeah, it is actually it's WAXT.
Oh, okay.
Wax.
You threw me the fucking curveball.
Yes.
No, people do it with the
WAXT.
podcast name. They type in, you know what I'm saying, and they type in, you know what I'm saying.
I think
and it
it's
doesn't come
I
up.
think it's on Spotify because the guitar player went back and he re-released the whole thing and he put it.
Okay, cool. So you can find it.
Yeah, and
So I'm guessing. I'm going to ask you, but so it was from the time period. I'm going to guess it was kind of like a grunge sound,
a little bit. Yeah, it was a little bit.
or was it more alternative?
It was kind of a grunge funk thing. It was like
got
I
a little.
mean,
Okay.
yeah.
A
you said you're-
grunge
No, we're
phone
gonna
thing?
we're gonna find it and
Yeah.
listen to it, boys.
So, like,
Yeah.
if it was like, if you had to describe it, like, would it be like, you know, like Pantera met?
No, I mean
Rage.
it was kind of like there was a little bit of STP meets the Chili Peppers. I guess.
Okay, see, okay, I could hear
So-
that. STP meets Chili
Yeah,
Peppers.
that's like perfect. Yeah.
I was trying to think of it when I said it. I'm like, who meets who? That's, yeah.
So
Yeah,
Lance,
so-
do you still do singing at all? You ever do like
actually
just in the shower?
I actually recorded an album with my old guitar player. He hit me up about 2 years ago.
Who's that?
Jimmy Fitzgerald,
Okay.
and he's originally from Ireland.
No shit.
One of the coolest guys, one of my best friends.
Shout out
Accent
Jimmy.
and all?
Oh, without a doubt,
Yeah.
yeah. And he was in San Diego, and he was producing an instrumental album, and asked me if I would, come up with something for one of the songs. And I hadn't.
He
written,
needed a melody.
yeah, I hadn't written anything in 17 years.
Well, he needed a melody.
So he sent me something, and I was like, okay. And then I started to write, and then all of a sudden we put together about 20 songs, and he's like,
And
hey,
how long?
over 2 months.
20 songs in 2 months?
Yeah.
Did he have like most of those instrumentals done, and you just
Yeah,
were
yeah,
able to?
he
You
just-
say
he-
that so coolly, like that's not like a feat.
Well, I was just,
Especially to write them. Like
I was just
learning 20
inspired.
songs in 2 months is a feat.
I was
Writing?
just inspired because I hadn't written anything in a long time. I just gone through a drought. I had walked away.
Yeah.
Radio was everything, and
Right.
and it was like I was fine with that. It was cool, but when
Doesn't that
Jim-
make it easier though? Like you had your career. You had
yeah,
the radio.
it was great. And
No stress or pressure put on that project.
No,
You just did it. 20
yeah.
songs in 2 months.
it was fun. It was just there was a creative process to it. He already had all the music written. I just had to put something to it, and then we kind of whittled it down to I think 9 songs, and he called the project "Our Mother of God," and it's up there. I played one of the songs on the radio, a song called "My Solitude," which I was very, very proud of. It was
What the hell, man? How have I never heard of this before?
Yeah.
Like,
This is why I love this podcast, man. We find
Because
out a bunch of stuff about people. Like, you guys live these interesting ass, intricate lives, and you live here amongst us.
Well, but you also don't want to go on the radio and every single day be like, "Oh, hey, I just recorded this album. Check it
Well,
out."
it's
Yeah,
not
like
a-
you get
the
that's not
radio's
really
not
your
about him.
job. Yeah, that's just it.
Like when I talk about, like when it came out, I was like, oh, here's a song, I played it, and then I moved on because
Yes.
there's other
Yeah.
shit that's going on in my
Yeah,
life.
right.
It's not about that. I'm not there to promote myself because it was a fun project to do, something on the side,
Yep.
and it was fun for me to get creative again because I hadn't done that in a lot of years.
It's exactly how I feel about this podcast.
So what
Well,
did you
it
say
sounds
the
like your
project
pro-
was called?
What's
Our,
that?
Our
Lance?
Lady of God.
Our Mother of God.
Our Mother
of God.
That was the band or like the
That's
album?
Waxed. the band.
Waxed.
Waxed,
no.
Waxed is the old band.
Right. This is
That
a
we were
whole
in
new
together,
project,
and Our Mother
right?
of God is his new project.
Yes.
Because the other guitar player Pinky is in Germany, the bass player
There's two pinkies.
is in London, and then because we all recorded our pieces from different parts of the world. Like he recorded all
How
his
does
guitars.
that happen though? We gotta get into that.
You send them the file,
Yeah, he
and
sent
you
the
plug
file.
it into your
Sends-
program.
No,
and
I understand that, but like, how is that even like?
that's
why
how,
don't instead
that's
of,
how all they do it now.
We started piecing all of the stuff together. We hadn't even talked to each other on the phone. It was all via email for like 8 to 10 months, and then finally I picked up the phone and I was like, "Dude, I'm coming out to Vegas in February. I was thinking about
Where were you staying in Vegas?
we're staying at the Golden Nugget. I think it
Nice,
was.
yeah, the Nugget.
And-
That's outside of Vegas. That's actually like a few miles outside. It's not even on the strip.
So then I was like,
No,
we were thinking
deadass.
about driving over to San Diego after that and recording the vocals in your studio. So drove over. What was it? 2020.
I was
And
gonna say, this
recorded.
had to be during COVID then.
Yeah, it was right before COVID. It was like right as
Like
COVID
February
was,
then?
Yeah, right as COVID was getting ready to hit. And then I flew out to Vegas because they have this rock radio convention every year.
Yes,
And,
yes. I've seen your post from that.
And then my wife met me in Vegas after that. Stayed for an extra couple of days. Drove down to Phoenix, Arizona to watch the Cubs play because I'm a Cubs fan.
Cubbies.
And then hung out there for a couple of days. And then we drove through the desert over to San Diego where we hung with Jimmy and his wife Ann Ray, and then sat there and recorded for like 7 or 8 days. And but yeah, he has his buddy who did all the bass tracks in London. I've never met the guy, but super cool. Pinky, who's a guitar player in Germany, she laid down some guitar tracks, and we just kind of pieced it all together.
Pinky's a chick.
Yeah.
chick.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, this is the first time he said she.
yeah. I apologize.
When I said
So,
Pinky,
yeah.
like I
So
hear
that's why you
Pinky,
called her Pinky.
I hear Pinky, I hear Pinky Slurry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
right,
So,
in
you,
town.
so you knew all these people before they moved to different continents?
No, I only knew Jimmy. I've known Jimmy
Oh.
for like.
So
20,
Jimmy
20
was the plug.
he was the guy who had it all together. Like he'd already recorded the music, and that on his own, and then he.
See, and that's crazy because that's 20 years ago, and that's how they're doing it now.
You know who,
like you think Drake meets up with Billie Eilish to record a fucking song? Like, no, they just email it,
Right.
and then the producer.
Yeah, no, I could be wrong. Don't fact check this, but I'm pretty sure Eminem and Rihanna like never even were in the same studio.
No,
for,
not-
like
not
Love
even
the Way
once.
You Lie.
Nope.
or
And they just
anything
put
like
out
that.
bangers.
I
nonstop.
actually watched a Facebook reel on them the other day about that. Yeah, no, they
But,
never met in the same room.
But Lance, you know who else does that now too? Is do you know Steve Morley?
Yeah. Yeah.
With Never Seen.
Yeah.
With Never Seen, this guy he lives in he lives a few states down, whether it's
Virginia.
like
He's in
Virginia or
Virginia.
something like
yeah,
that.
he
and-
was on the show a while back. He
Oh, yeah.
Steve
okay,
was
so-
Steve was the other guy. I forgot his name.
Me too, man, which is so bad. Dude, I love their music. He's very talented, and I've loved Steve forever, but that's pretty
Well,
much
Steve's
dude,
such a good guy too.
he is.
Oh,
dude.
Steve's
Shout
the
out.
man.
no,
But actually-
aside from music, yeah, he is through and through one of my favorite people.
And an incredible musician.
Yeah.
The guy that's actually producing those, or he actually might be in the band.
Yeah,
is
the
from
lead
here, and
singer.
he directed those. What are those movies called?
Crank, he did
Crank,
one with
yes.
Jason
Yes.
Statham.
Jason Statham. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, what a gnarly
Yeah.
concept for a movie. Hey, you got to keep doing drugs or your heart's going to stop.
But yeah, dude, that dude's from here, man, and that's who's in Steve Morley's band. Like,
No
there's
shit.
two
But
of them.
he'll
isn't
His
there?
like-
brother's the main singer.
Okay.
Of the band.
Oh, is that
okay.
who it
Yeah.
is? Okay.
So,
So it's a little closer to home than we thought.
well, and then he'll write all this stuff and fly Steve down to
Yep.
track bass and do music videos. And I think that's so cool that instead of just finding someone down there to do it,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
like,
to
nah,
keep
I'm
it-
getting fucking Steve
My boy,
Morley.
and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
dude.
right.
Hell yeah, bro. Like that's
so
so
cool.
cool, dude.
All right, now, Lance,
Yes.
but we got to get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, we got to shift gears here a little
Um,
bit.
I got to ask you, and like I said, it's whatever. What was if you had to in all your experience of interviewing all these great bands?
Well, let's prelude that.
What was your favorite?
Let's prelude that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know that part of your job is to
travel around the country and interview cool people.
Go to Rock on the Range or whatever it's called, Sonic
Rock
Temple.
on the Range,
Ozfest.
Sonic Temple.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like
you've been to every festival from here to California.
I've been to a lot of them. Yeah.
Vegas, everywhere.
Yeah. So in your experience, what was like your favorite interview that you've done? Out of all the bands you've interviewed, even personal, what was your favorite one?
Just so you know, I have 38,000 questions about this. So
yeah, well, this is gonna be an ongoing.
There's been. Can I take a bathroom break?
Yes.
Shame,
Oh
dude.
my
Holy
God.
hell! I thought you never.
Wait.
I'm so happy you said I had to go.
Oh my God, bro! I was gonna flip out.
Out of all your years' experience being around famous people doing interviews and stuff, what was your the band that stuck with you the most? I would say the best way I could word it, like the one you most like talking to.
There's a lot of different great interviews that I've done. The one when Seether came up for the
Clayton show. The Clayton
Yeah.
show. Yeah, it was them, and Tremonti was actually on that bill
Tremonti
too.
was
Yeah.
on that.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
You know him.
Sean
I do
Morgan
know him.
was such a great interview because he was in New Zealand at the time.
Is that where they're from? They're not.
No, he's from South Africa.
Okay.
Wait, Seether, the lead singer's from
Yeah.
South Africa?
The whole band's from South Africa.
Like Justin Rose.
And
Oh, shit.
and he
I
was
didn't know that.
like such a nice guy. And he's like, oh, wait a second. I'm not getting a good connection. Let me find something else. And then I lost him. And he's like, let me walk somewhere else. He called me back a couple of different times. And I did the interview at like 10 o'clock at night.
He didn't just flake when it failed.
No, he was super nice. Like that guy was great. And Nickelback was like one of the first interviews I ever did.
All right.
Dude.
Listen, we're going to stop.
Those guys were cool. They were totally. It was,
You got to tell us more about that.
Yeah, because you met Nickelback. You talked to Chad Kroger.
Me and Lava.
Oh,
right
dude,
here.
I'm the biggest Nickelback
Okay, I
fan.
got a couple of Chad Kroger
You got
stories.
okay, perfect.
Oh, I
So-
cannot
Hey,
wait.
let's go.
This is what the viewers want to see, baby. Nickelback. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to nestle right
That's
in.
the first band I ever interviewed.
Back when Chad had the long hair.
It was in the very, very beginning. Breathe, their second single after Leader of Men, had just come out.
So the second thing, that's after.
How many times we've been
couldn't
playing?
make it as a wise
No,
man.
no,
that's
no,
the first
no,
album.
before-
No. That's their third album.
Leader of Men was their first
You
single.
know Leader of Men, right?
Yeah, no, I don't.
And
We play it every night on our guitars.
that was their first ever single. Breathe was their second single. They came into this. It was the first band I ever
Is that off
interviewed.
Curb or State?
Curb, I think. Isn't
Okay.
it?
Jeez,
No,
I'm late.
No, Leader of Men's off State, I
Is it
think.
off State?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Either way,
But it was
either way.
their first single, and I remember talking to Chad, and I was like, well,
Just so
tell me about
casually.
the
Chad,
single.
yeah, just like
And,
he's just some guy.
And he's like, yeah. He goes, we wrote that song on shrooms, and he goes,
But did you say it like this? Yeah, we wrote that song on shrooms.
He actually
They were-
doesn't talk like that.
they were just like they were cutting up, and they were like just having a blast, and he was like, yeah, and I don't even know if that's true or not. I think that he might have been bullshitting me just to throw it out there, but he said they wrote it on shrooms. It was the last song that they did, and and you hear so many bands, they talk about the last song that we put on the album became the biggest song that they ever did. And I mean, so that was cool. And then at the show afterwards, we went to hang out on their bus, and my promotions director
I'm so jealous.
cut his hair with a spoon.
Call whose hair?
Cut Chad
With a
Kroger's hair
spoon?
with a spoon. And there,
How'd that work out? How the fuck you cut anything with a spoon?
It was like one of those like sporks or something
Oh,
like
it's a
that.
spork.
Yeah. And
No way.
there was
It
so
was a
much
spork.
There was so much smoke on the bus. Like I opened the door to get on it, and it was like Jeff Spicoli from
Were they
Fast
potheads?
Times. Oh my god.
Yeah?
dude. Oh my god.
I didn't think they were
there was
pods.
so much.
Get
just-
the fuck out of here.
They
So
are
you-
they are Canadian.
you get
Well,
on
I
the-
did. Hey, it's illegal up in Canada.
So then you get on the bus with them, and totally cool guys. Hung out with them.
Really?
I had a couple of cocktails. I didn't partake in the weed, but you get the secondhand buzz or whatever. But yeah, and then I hung out with them. We stayed at the same bed and breakfast when they went on their next tour and opened up for Three Doors Down. So
Could you imagine
Wow.
waking up in the
Well, they
morning,
were- what
waking
was
up
that-
and Chad Kroger's knocking there like, "Hey, you want to go grab a bagel or a
What-
blueberry
what-
muffin?"
Were they on Wind Up Records?
yeah.
Creed was on that as well.
Creed was on. No.
Did you ever interview Creed?
No. They were on Roadrunner Records.
Did you ever interview Creed?
No, I didn't. But
You interviewed Scott Stapp though, didn't you?
I did later when he came here and did the solo thing.
Yeah.
I did interview him. Totally nice guy. But
He's come a long way from his downfall. He hit rock bottom for a long time.
Like twice.
The dude got off of his meds and he went around thinking he was an assassin for the CIA.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was.
I was just telling you. Remember, we watched that podcast of Stapp on Theo Von.
Yeah.
And I told you about that. It was like a 2-hour podcast. And I
Dude,
mean, he's a family man now.
No, I hung out with him in Vegas at one of those rock radio conventions.
All that
Really?
I ran into him at the bar and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, Scott Stapp," and we started talking. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I think my son's playing here tonight." I was like, "You don't know?" He goes,
He's talked to his son.
Jagger Stapp and me are habitually message on Instagram.
They're pen
Yeah.
pals.
"Nice."
Like
Yeah,
when we first
dude.
started this, he's like, "Dude, I can get Scott Stapp's son on here." He's like, he messaged me a
He
long
wanted
time
to do
ago
a
with the Northman.
collaboration. Yeah, he wanted to do a collaboration. With
He's
us.
a
But
hip-hop
anyway,
artist.
But no,
Right,
so,
right. I do remember hearing about that. Yeah.
So- bad. It's not good.
When was that Vegas thing where you?
That
met him?
was I want to say that was the right before COVID hit. That was 2020. Yeah, because we were out there the end.
He
of
shouldn't have been at a bar then.
Yeah, he was hanging out. Well, because it was
Well,
it
where
was
he
the
was
radio
playing.
convention, and he was there. He was there just doing an interview.
Okay.
Because they bring in all these different artists, like Jonathan Davis from Korn came out, and Gavin Rossdale from Bush came out, and they had.
I would love to meet Gavin
Zach
Rossdale.
Wild, and they have all these artists that show up all the time that do these panels, and then they had at night they would have like these artist showcase for a lot of the smaller bands, and Scott just happened to go there because he was on one of the
Right.
panels.
Right.
And he was just hanging out with the radio guys.
I will
and
say
everything.
this because obviously both of these guys, I'm the biggest Creed fan you'll ever meet in your entire life. Like
That's how me and him met
Just talking about Creed and
at a
I
high
love
school
Creed.
party.
I participated in Mark Shimani's guitar clinic before. Like I've opened for Scott Stapp here, whatever, blah blah. Scott Stapp is and we've played with a lot of people like Foreigner, Brett Michaels,
Well, you
Drowning
also- you
Pool,
also went-
Sick Puppies. You know, Scott Stapp is the only one that ever came up to us to say, "Hey guys, go have a good show."
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's cool.
how cool is that, bro?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, he hit rock bottom. I've listened to several podcasts where he's on them, and he's just he's like, I know it sounds kind of lame, but like reformed. You know, like
He's got it together.
we've seen shows of him like he laid down on stage one day and was just like yelling.
They got
the
sued for that.
vocals.
You remember that when Creed when
Yeah.
Creed got sued for that show in Chicago because
I don't remember that.
He
now.
came out blistered drunk.
There
and
was
just
an article-
laid down on his back on the stage and just
there was an article on
Freaking
Facebook
out.
today. I think it was I don't know if it was Loudwire or Alternative Press, but yeah, 20 years ago today they played a show in Chicago, and Scott Stapp was
gone, hammered, blackout drunk.
visibly inebriated.
I
and
like the reclamation stories.
And that's when Tremonti, I think, when he called it,
That's
he was
when they
like,
quit
he's
and
like,
they called
he's
Miles
like,
Kennedy
he's
up,
like, I
yeah.
can't do this shit no more with you.
Yeah,
well,
that's-
I like that. Scott's kind of come full circle. Another guy like Wes Scantlin from Puddle of Mud,
Yeah.
one of the nicest guys ever.
You see, I would rather think about Scott Stapp in the interview you did with him than think like I don't know this man.
Right.
I never met him. Everyone goes through some shit.
no, everybody
And
does.
but he went through it live on stage in front of 20,000
And
people.
that's the whole thing, man. When you're a rock
Yeah.
star and when you're a personality like that, and you have all these yes people around you, and you're making the worst possible decisions, and nobody's telling you like, "Hey, time
Right.
out, dude." I think that maybe
Yeah.
exactly.
you like to hear them rebounding because they're real people too, man.
And he really did.
Yeah.
He rebounded hard. I
Oh.
mean, he's like super. Like I said, I've listened to like Creed's not together anymore.
Right.
And Stapp, like I said, I've listened to him on Theo Von. I've listened to him on Bill Burr and shit like
Love
that.
Bill Burr.
And he's just like,
Stapp was on Bill Burr?
who? Stapp? Yeah, oh, yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, absolutely. He gets around. He's an icon of the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, people just don't forget about that. And yeah, he goes on there, but now he speaks for sobriety, and he's like, I hit rock bottom, and I know where it's at, and I know where I want to be at.
Well, and
And-
it's getting people around you that are helping you to make those decisions instead of just saying yes to everything and trying to like ride on the coattails. When Wes Scantlin was here with Puddle of Mud, and they played that show out at the Speedway, in Lafargeville.
Oh, you guys put that on, didn't you?
No, they did. You guys
We did the one in Jordan, New York.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys did the Speedway.
Yeah, that's a soft subject. Let's not touch
Yeah.
on that.
Okay. Well, I didn't know. I thought I was the. Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird thing.
It was definitely weird, man. Only because we had that show booked, and then we got kind of undercoated by the local promoters, which is fine.
Hey,
I mean,
potato.
whatever. We still did okay.
All right,
Anyway,
back
but
to
no, Wes Scantlin though. Yeah,
They said no alcohol around him. Don't show up with a beer can. That he only had bottled water. Like,
Oh, it was like that.
even the
Really?
meet and greet, they're like, leave your beer behind. You can't come in.
No
Yeah.
shit. They're like, don't like
Don't want
antagonize him.
No.
No
And
shit.
Yeah. And when I'd hung out with him when they played at what was it? They played at the arena with
yes,
Adelita's Way.
Yep.
And
Torment
Shaman's
the Vein.
Harvest. And Torment
Yep.
the
I
Vein.
was at that show. That was my first rock show I've ever. It was
I never heard of
2010.
any
It
of
was
those
May.
bands.
I'll never forget.
You ever heard
May
of any of those
25th. May
Yeah, me
25th, 2010.
That
I'll
was
never forget it.
That was the best year for live shows.
It was
here
awesome.
because you had that show, then you had Buck Cherry, and then you had Godsmack.
Well, that's what
And-
Ozfest did that.
Yeah.
Well, and then
That
I
was
think,
where it all came from because
I think-
Ozfest was like huge that year.
I think Papa Roach was the year after
Yeah.
that at the
Oh,
arena.
was it the year after? Because I remember I
was
remember
Papa
I remember
Roach?
Ozfest because Papa Roach was like up there on the
No,
billboard.
I'm talking
and
at
everyone
the.
was freaking the
I'm
fuck
talking
out.
at the arena.
At
It was
the
Papa
arena.
Roach and Pop Evil.
Yeah,
actually.
I think that was the year after.
Pop
yeah.
Evil.
Oh, yeah,
What
dude,
song
that was
they
crazy.
got?
Pop
What is
Evil's
that?
been here like seven.
They've got a
They
bunch.
started off at Fat Boys. That was the first place that they played.
I'm terrible with bands. Like when you say Pop,
Pop Evil played at Fat
I'm like,
Boys?
oh, I
that
don't
was
know
their
who
first
Pop
gig.
Evil
They played
is.
at Fat Boys.
Really?
Yeah, they played there, and then they played. I think at the college, opening up for
Yes.
Theory of a Dead Man,
Like Ithaca or something.
and then they played at the
Savory.
arena.
played
Yeah,
at
they played
Savory,
at
too.
Savory.
Get
with,
what?
They played at Savory
Yeah.
downtown
Twice.
with Red Sun Rising opening up,
Yes.
and Red Sun Rising stole the
See, that just
show.
that just
They
goes
did.
to prove right there. Like you can be like a fucking, you could sell, go platinum on Spotify and iTunes and all that shit. Be a big band and you still play at the fucking hotel
Well,
bar.
Glorious Sons played at the Savory downtown.
We opened for
We-
Glorious Sons
I-
twice.
Me and him opened that show.
Twice.
But anyway,
That's
but no,
awesome.
Steve Morley's band Downgrade opened for that Pop Evil show at Savory
yes,
too.
yes, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do
With
remember.
what's his name? Leo Petrie and Chris
Leo,
Smith.
Oh,
Chris
Big
Smith,
Rack,
yeah.
Big Rack,
And
Big
Mug
Rack,
and
Big
shit.
Rack
Big Rack,
played.
that show was
No.
great
Big
too.
Rack played. Yeah, dude.
Ian
I-
Thornhill's
yeah.
one of the greatest guitar players I've ever. Have you
Well,
ever seen
and
that guy play guitar?
I heard
Oh,
one Big Rack song because they had that one hit that was on the radio. I can't remember the words as of right now.
The Oath
But then,
was
Al,
the first hit.
Then Al Solari,
one,
and them opened up
That
for them,
song,
and I saw the videos.
Blown
of
Wide
them.
Open. The first
Blown
time
wide. Yes, blown wide open. That's the one
I had
I'm
a
thinking of.
conversation with Ian because of the fact that when I was in Fort Myers, Florida, and I'd heard of Big Wreck already, but Ricky Medlock of Leonard Skinner used to listen to the station that I worked at, and he would call in from time to time, and he called up and goes, "Hey, Lancer, you heard of this? You heard of this band Big Wreck?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, that song The Oath, it's great." He goes, "Man, I'm a big fan of that band. They're phenomenal." So, fast forward like 20 years later, and I had a conversation with Ian Thornley. I was like, "Do you realize
Thornley,
that?
that's right.
Do you realize that Ricky Medlock of Leonard Skinner is like a big fan of yours?" He goes, "I did hear about that." He goes, "I did hear that." He kind of like, I said, "Have you ever talked with him about it?" He's like, "I've never had a conversation. I've never met the man, but," he goes, "it's pretty flattering when the guitar player from, Leonard Skinner says that he's
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. That's kind of a big deal.
But Ian Thornley, amazing guitar player. His vocals, he reminds me of Chris Cornell. Like you hear his voice, it's like
And he looks exactly like him
he
too.
does, really. Yeah, yeah.
And, I mean, that's pretty good company to be in.
Yeah, if you get compared to Chris Cornell, you take that to heart.
So, Lance, I want to ask you because Jake was on this bill that I played with. We played with Austin John Winkler. Did you interview him?
I did not interview him. No, I did not.
Not even when he was in town.
No.
What was that, 5 years ago? Or something
Yeah,
like that?
I did not interview him for that. I'm
You've
not
never
sure why.
interviewed him?
I have not.
Because-
What band is that?
Hinder.
Hinder.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
why didn't you do that when they were in town?
I don't even know. I'm
I
not
remember
sure.
like Hinder's like your radio station's like
Not-
that.
We
That's
do
like
play.
the genre.
Not quite. I
I
mean,
mean, that's the genre.
Yeah, I mean, we played like Get Stoned and Lips of an Angel.
Right.
And there's like a couple of other songs that we played.
It's pretty much what they got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna revert back to the Wes Scantlin thing in a second here, but Jake, you remember that show, right?
I do, yeah. I
Did
remember,
he not look annihilated?
I actually left before he took the stage.
Wait, who?
The
Who
guy
looked
from
annihilated?
the guy from Hinder.
Yeah.
He was
So,
drunk.
but-
he was
but-
drunk at the
yeah.
show.
But he did an interview with Johnny Keegan.
Right.
and talking about his sobriety and everything like that. So that's weird. So this is where I'm coming back to the Wes Scantlin thing. When we put on that show with Puddle of Mud, I laughed, but one of the people I put the show on says he was doing lines with Wes Scantlin
Really?
the whole time. So
Really?
so the whole like beer, like not being around him, like just blows my mind.
Well, that sounds like our Glorious
that
Sun
sucks.
show the first time.
That makes me.
That sounds like our Glorious Sun show the first time.
Yeah.
We opened for the Glorious Suns the first time at Savory, and
but they didn't hide the fact that they were doing
that's
drugs.
the thing. They didn't hide it at all.
Wes was on the radio being like, yo, I'm sober as fuck, and then he's just ripping lines.
This guy said the same thing. Fuck, what's his name there?
Brett.
Yeah, Brett.
Brett Emmons.
Brett Emmons, and
they were cool.
We opened up for him, and like they literally like they listened to our set. They were backstage, and they came out like me and Lav were restringing our guitars before the show in like the Best Western thing, like the hallway outside the ballroom, and the band came in and they stopped and they're like, hey, what are you guys doing? We got to meet the band like before it even happened, all this shit. And so we opened up for him, and Brett, he played that song White Noise.
And he said it was about doing cocaine on an airplane.
He was like, yeah, you know how the song was written? He's like, I got wicked high on cocaine before I got in this airplane, and I was freaking out.
That's fine. but that's fine. If you're admitting it, like, don't go on the radio and say, oh, I'm sober now, and then start ripping lines backstage.
2 months later, the band put out publicly, they're like, he's in rehab. Homeboy didn't. They got offered.
That happens,
they
bro.
played not Lollapalooza. What's that other one? The big one. Not Lollapalooza.
There's a million of them, dude.
Yeah.
The big one.
Coachella.
That one. They were supposed to play that, and they couldn't do it because Homeboy was in rehab.
Damn.
And dude, I think all these bands are wicked cool and wicked sick, but Lance has interviewed bands like Disturbed and
Yeah, and that's what we're
Foo
trying to get into.
Fighters
Yeah,
and
we
shit.
got a little bit off.
We got off track there. I want to hear about that.
So we
shit.
asked you your best interview. We asked you that, and
You have pictures with Dave Grohl, do you not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of
how cool was Foo Fighters?
I saw the Foo Fighters in 2005, and Weezer was opening up. Saw them in Miami, and my wife and I got backstage. My wife was actually pregnant with our first kid. She was 5 months pregnant.
What year was this?
2005. She kicked for the first time at the Foo Fighters show.
Get the fuck out of here.
She was moshing.
Foo Fighters got her gassed
They're
up.
in the middle of the set, and my wife's like, "Feel my belly, she's kicking right now." I was like, "That's freaking awesome, dude."
ass,
Yeah.
So, but we got backstage, and
Don't wanna be your monkey wrench.
he went up on stage, and he's like, how many of you guys have downloaded my music? And everybody's like, yeah. And he's like, I don't care, I'm rich anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
Grohl said that?
Grohl said that.
Well, you heard about the show they threw up here at the amphitheater?
He was probably
And
there.
I was there,
and
yeah.
they were late.
Yeah.
They were wicked late because
Yeah.
the plane dropped.
He was posting updates,
Yeah.
like telling when they would be
so like Al
taking the stage and shit.
Okay, well tell us about that because you know more about it than I do.
Well, they were in New York City, and the weather was like keeping them, and they were drinking champagne, and they were wondering if they were going to make it or not. And they were like inching closer to canceling the show. They were almost going to cancel the show, and then it was like 5 minutes before canceling the show, the pilot's like, "We got to go," and they took off and they flew and they got to Syracuse. They got
Like give us 2 hours, bus will be in.
Yeah, they
Whole
got the
I heard there was a police escort.
that
Yeah.
brought them from the airport to the arena.
Yeah.
The opening band, had to play an
Who was
extended.
opening?
It was some band that I'd never heard of before. I thought they were kind of cool, but everybody that I talked to hated them.
You have no idea who it was?
I have no idea who they
Yeah,
were.
I mean, I don't
Well,
know.
give them a fucking break, man.
But-
Like
No,
they thought they were going to play 4 songs.
Yeah, no,
and
right.
shit,
And
you
then
know
all of
what
a
I
sudden they got to play a 45-minute set.
Exactly.
Yo,
yeah.
shout out to them for doing their
yeah.
fucking thing
But,
for sure.
Yeah, Dave Grohl's what I was
Al
going to.
Solari was at the show, and he's like, dude, they dropped off. They had the police escort.
Yeah.
The bus showed up, and he's like, they didn't even like spend any time like backstage. Like, we
they
need to
went
tune
straight
it.
on
They're
stage.
like we seen the bus show up. They're like, we saw it. They popped out of the bus and they just walked through the crowd on the stage and start playing.
Yeah.
It was
And
like
they're
that.
they're like, that's
It was pretty
Dave
much like
Grohl.
that.
Like Dave Grohl, he's a bazillionaire. Like he's
I
played
get it, but-
Wembley. He
but
could have
he's-
canceled the show and it wouldn't have been any
He's-
sweat off his back. And he's like, we're not canceling the fucking show.
I feel like his musical integrity made it that he didn't. He broke his leg on stage and then came back 3 hours later in a cast
finished the
and
set.
finished the set.
Dude,
in a
I
wheelchair.
watched his
Yeah.
documentary, man. Like he is like just he's got an incredible mindset. He just believes
He's
in
a
himself.
badass, dude, for
He
sure,
believes in
man.
himself more than anyone.
I'm reading his book right now, Storyteller, which I got for Christmas.
So I'm
which is
sure you
great.
heard about the instance with when he got offered to do Tom Petty.
Yeah.
You know, same thing. Like, you know, Nirvana, you know, Kurt died and everything else. And Dave lived down the street from the recording studio. Like he was living with his mother, but they lived like down the street from the recording studio.
It was like Sunset Studios or something like that, right?
So he's like, I'm going to go out on my own. He's like, I got a bunch of songs that I've already written and blah, blah, blah.
He put everything into himself. The drummer of Nirvana.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to go for broke. And he you know, turned down Tom Petty.
100%.
To play drums for him.
Well, no, Tom Petty called them up for SNL. For Saturday Night Live. And Tom Petty was like, hey, we need, like, the drummer for Tom Petty broke his foot. Getting out of the car to go to Saturday Night Live, they pulled up in front of the studio and he got out and a taxi ran over his foot. Wow. That's what happened to the drummer. They got out to unload their equipment at Saturday Night Live and a fucking taxi driver ran over his foot and broke his foot.
That's crazy.
Is that confirmed or are you?
No, that's real.
That's speculative.
Yeah, no, that's real.
Like,
that's
Lance, did you know that? Like, I don't know if is that speculative or is that?
I haven't read that far into the book.
That's
about
that's right from Dave Grohl's mouth. He's like, we pulled up. He's like, homeboy broke his foot. He's like, so our drummer's got his kick pedal foot broken, and we have a day and a half. We got to play Saturday Night Live, and so they called Dave Grohl, and they're like, hey, you know, come, like, Tom Petty wants you to play Saturday Night Live, and he's like, okay, cool. So we learned the songs, and you know, Dave Grohl, like, Tom Petty's really not a lot of ride cymbal, you know, not shit like that, and he played like punk rock drums over Tom Petty music, and they loved it. And yeah, he's like, Dave says, he's like, I'll never forget that moment. He's like, when the phone rang, and he's like, I picked up the phone, and they're like, hey, Tom wants you permanently, like, you're in the band. And Dave Grohl goes, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. Right. And Dave goes, I can literally still to this day see in slow motion me hanging up that phone. Like, literally turning down a multi-million-dollar guaranteed career to go, like, to nothing. Like,
there were no guarantees.
Yeah, he's like, I was the drummer of Nirvana, and now I'm trying to go out and make a solo album on guitar.
Right, and he did everything. He recorded the entire thing except for, I think, like a guitar solo.
And he hung up the fucking
on like an
phone.
8-track player.
Yeah, that was it. The entire thing.
And he said no thanks and hung up the phone on Tom Petty's manager. And in that documentary, he goes. It still gives me the shivers thinking about that.
Can you imagine the nads you have to hang up the phone?
He's like, dude, it was the biggest. He's like, it was the biggest mistake of my life, followed by the biggest blessing of my life.
No,
that could have gone a completely different way.
That's what he said. He's like, it could have went severely south. He's like, I had a guaranteed contract. Like, Tom Petty, he's like, dude, I was getting paid more than anyone to join Tom Petty, man. Right. He's like, I said no. He's like, and I could just see it.
Frame by frame.
Yeah, but he knew he had the songs. He knew he had the songs. He didn't know.
He just had an idea. Because
he'd been playing them for Kurt Cobain beforehand. He's, hey man, can you listen to this stuff?
Right.
He knew that he had something, and he knew that he had to take a shot at himself.
But if you listen to the way he said it, you would think.
No, he knew he had something. He didn't know that.
Yeah, you're not going on.
Well, he didn't know he was going to be a millionaire. He didn't know that he was going to be a superstar.
But he was a fucking drummer.
Right.
And Tom Petty's offering him a drumming career. And he's like, nah, I'm going to play guitar. I'm
that's ballsy, bro.
I'm going to start writing songs. That'd be like me. Like, you know how bad of a fucking drummer I am, Lav. That'd be like me.
You're not good.
That'd be like me picking up and, like, we started this pop punk band. I'm like, you know what? I think I want to do drums for this one because I know all these songs. You guys would be like, no, absolutely not, Evan.
I don't think it's quite the same as that. I think he is a little bit more credentialed.
He's a school tailored musician.
He's Dave Grohl.
He's Dave Grohl. But
anyway, bro,
that's something out of nothing. That's something out of nothing. But that's even worse. It's that it could have been something, and he made it nothing, and then he made it something. You know, like, hey, you want a guaranteed contract?
Yeah, but how about
$500,000 a year? He's like, nah, I'd rather work for myself.
How about the fact that our guest has talked to him on a regular basis, though?
No, I've only talked to him one time. I talked to him one time.
Okay, well,
and actually, my wife talked to him more than I did, because he was kind of flirting with my wife.
All right, so either way, back to it. So I asked
you. That's kind of badass, though, too.
So your wife talked to him?
It was. Oh yeah, because we were backstage and I was just like hanging back with the record rep because he was doing a meet and greet and asking questions, or answering questions that anybody had. Then he started snapping photos and he's like, do you want a picture? And I was like, Hell yeah. So it's like
Yeah,
the only
does the
picture
Pope
that I
pray, dude?
It's the only picture that I have of me with any rock star where I have like a shit-eating grin on my face because it's like the one person that I was in awe of. That I was just like,
So you've never really been starstruck.
with Dave Grohl, I was.
Yeah, I would have been
And
too. Yeah,
and
that's
and he was
understandable.
totally cool. Took the photo. Then he saw my wife was pregnant. And he just joked. He goes, "Oh, are you naming the baby after me?" And my wife goes, "It's a girl." And he goes, "You don't want to name her Davina?" And my
Like
wife,
the coolest story I've ever heard.
Yeah, what the fuck?
and my wife says, "Nope."
Yeah,
And
fuck
the-
you, Dave Grohl.
And then she's like, "Do you like it when people call you Davy?" And he goes, "Nope."
yeah,
But he was cool about the
he
whole thing.
seems like a very personable.
Oh man, he was the
dude.
nicest guy ever.
You always hear
That's
that
awesome.
thing like, don't meet your heroes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you always hear that
He's
thing.
a good one to
So
meet.
that's why we're asking all these questions. Like, okay, so.
Some of the best
What
interactions.
was
are-
the worst one?
The worst one was Aaron
I
Lewis.
knew
of
that was
Stain.
coming.
Who?
I knew-
Aaron Lewis?
Aaron Lewis of
From
Stain.
Disturbed?
No, Stained.
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 Sorry. Yeah.
No, David Draymond was great too. I had a great conversation with him about
thought Aaron Lewis
trying to
was
do
Disturbed.
the national anthem for a Cubs game. So it's like, yeah, the best conversations with these guys are the organic ones where they just kind of like happen. Like I had a moment with Everlast that was just like one of the coolest stories ever. I have Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave.
Okay,
fame,
well, hold on,
where we
because
talk
I've
baseball.
seen Dave Morello live too. But like you said, Everlast is one of the coolest stories ever. Hit us with that.
We did a festival in Fort Myers, Florida, and it was
My aunt lived in Fort Myers.
we did 99-cent tickets.
Nobody
we had
cared.
18,000 people that showed up, and it was Seven Mary 3, Everlast, Finger
Seven
11.
Mary 3?
Seven Mary 3 was the headliner.
That's your song.
Which one?
Sex and Candy, right?
No, that's
or no, Cumbersome.
Cumbersome. was
That's
third.
your song.
And Everlast, Cowboy Mouth, Finger 11, Joy
Hey,
Drop.
Jake, feel free to pop in anytime you want, brother.
And
No, I'm-
afterwards, there was supposed to be, we were going to do a local palooza at this club. So we were going to do, then I was hosting it where all these local bands were going to play after these national bands had played all day. And Everlast came down because he's like, I'm not done. I want to play at this club, right? This cool little place called the Indigo Room. And all the local bands were like, dude, he can take my set. He can take my set. The owner of the club's like, nope, don't want it to happen. The place was packed. Seven Mary 3 was there. Finger 11 were there. They
And
were
he's like,
all-
"Nah, we don't want
They
it."
were all there to see Everlast. And the owner said, nope, I got a commitment to these local bands. And the place kind of emptied. And so I'm sitting outside with Everlast, and we're just sitting there. I'm having a beer, and he's rolling a joint. Like the doors that you have right there, 2 bicycle cops. 2
Oh,
cops
no.
that are staring at the 2 of us. I'm having a beer. We're having a conversation. He's rolling a joint. And
Well,
I'm
this is before pot was legal too, by the way. So
Oh, without
weird,
a doubt.
little weird deal.
No, the guys are like staring at us. And I'm looking at him, looking at that, back and forth. And then he finishes it, lights up, and he's like, you want a hit? Everlast from House of Pain offers you to take a hit. And I was like,
Yeah, you don't say. Even if there was a cop present.
nope. I said,
What?
I said, nope, I'm not doing it. I said, he goes, okay. And then I was like, dude, there's 2 bicycle cops right there. And he goes,
Yeah, I'm from Everland. What are you talking about?
he said, fuck the police.
You're from
and he kept
no,
doing it.
you're,
didn't.
He
You're,
did. He did. He
you're,
did.
you're from 94.1 and I'm me.
I'm from the radio station. I
Yeah,
said, as soon as I
fuck
take,
yeah.
I'm getting arrested.
Hey, dude, I
So-
say the same shit. all the
Everlast,
fucking
is
time.
that what it's like?
That's
No, that's no Everland.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's what it's like, but it's also
the worst song
jump
ever
around,
recorded.
jump
good
up,
tune.
jump up, and get down.
That's
Jump,
not
jump,
Everlast.
No,
jump.
that's not them.
Yes, it is. The Everlast was in House of Pain.
Like
Everlast was in House. The guitarist for Everlast was
no,
in House of Pain.
the lead singer
Like
of
that-
House of Pain, the lead
that
rapper.
scene in Mrs.
Yes.
Doubtfire where Robin Williams
Jump
is-
around, jump
Get
up.
the- that's
that's
You know what?
Everlast.
No,
Yes,
no,
yes.
no.
Google it right now.
I don't want to Google it
Yes,
because
he's
you're
probably
fucking with
right.
me.
It's
He's
fact.
probably right.
Yeah,
It's
I
fact.
know he's right. That's why I'm not Googling it. You're
And
fucking.
the
You're
cops,
fucking.
the cops turned and they left.
Because, dude, you know what it's like. Is probably the. I'd literally rather shove bamboo shoots underneath my fingernails than hear that song ever again. I'm like,
a
that
great
is-
song.
No, it's not. New kid named Max used to get fast. I fucking hate that fucking song. I hate that fucking song so much.
I was gonna say. So what was the story with David Draymond and the national
Yeah,
anthem?
dude, I'd love to hear about that.
We're in Vegas. Ran into him, started chatting, and I just bumped into him. And I was like, "Hey, dude." I was
Did
like,
he, did he have the
He goes, I just
Did
Yeah.
you have
Bumped into
the chin rings
Did you
and shit?
throw
did
an
not.
album? Did you actually bump, or did you throw?
I just bumped into him. I was like, hey man, I was like, dude, I just want to say, I was like, your cover, Sound of Silence
Yeah,
was phenomenal. I was like, maybe one of the best covers
Sound of Silence
ever. I was
Of
like,
all time.
phenomenal.
Oh,
and he's
who
like,
was
oh,
that? That was the Disturbed guy.
That was
Yeah,
Disturbed.
David Draymond,
And
yep.
he's like,
What's his
thanks.
name?
David
David
Draymond.
Draymond.
And he's like, oh, if you like that, you'll love the next album. We've been working on some other stuff. And I was like, listen, man. I was like, you're originally from Chicago, right? He goes, yeah. I was like, have you ever?
He's from
have you-
Chicago.
Yeah. I was like,
Windy
have you ever?
City.
I was like, have you ever done like the take me out to the ball game? Because the Cubs do the 7th inning
Right,
stretch.
yeah.
And
Oh,
they have all these
Jesus.
celebrities
Ian,
to come
no.
in.
Yeah,
Eddie
sold out
Eddie
like
Vedder's been out there doing it a bunch
Many
before.
times.
Yeah, he
Many
would. Eddie
times.
Vedder sold his soul. A
Bill
long time
Murray's
ago.
been out there.
Yeah,
Everybody.
yep.
And he's like, no. He goes, I've never been invited. I was like, well, that's some bullshit. And he's like, you know what I'd really like to do is I'd like to do the national anthem at a Cubs game. And I was like, well, I got to start, So, but that was it. We just talked some baseball and him singing at a baseball game.
That's awesome.
What
That
year
was the last one. No, that was 2019. That was 2019.
That was a couple years ago. So
So
fairly
3
recent.
years
Yeah.
after they won the World Series.
The Cubbies?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years after they won the World Series.
2016.
Yeah,
So
they
they
won
won-
it. Yeah, 16.
Yeah.
So 3 years.
17, 19, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, no, dude.
I'm not the math guy, Jake.
Well, no. Here's the crazy thing
I love how
about
you're sitting
that.
over there laughing. Like, I'm not the math guy.
It's-
You worry about your own
No,
shit
that's,
going on over
that's
here.
why I'm laughing, because you're so adamant that he was wrong, and then you come back and go,
Well,
well, I'm
here's
not
a-
the math guy.
Well, here's the crazy
You've been
thing.
looking at me funny the whole podcast.
He was before Disturbed. He was
A lawyer.
A
What?
lawyer? I thought he was like a hospital administrator or
lawyer.
something.
He was a lawyer.
Either way, he's making
Yeah.
6 figures doing a regular job, and he's like, "This is dumb. I'm gonna go be a rock star." And
Well,
you know
dude,
what I'm saying?
You know, like, who was the other guy, the second singer for Van Halen?
Sammy Hagar.
Sammy Hagar. My mom knew Sammy Hagar because after, who was the other guy?
David
David
Lee
Lee
Roth.
David Lee
Roth.
Roth, right? They were, they got really big off him. Then Sammy Lee Hagar came around or whatever. He was when Sammy Lee, when Van Halen. What's his name?
Sammy
Sammy
Hagar.
Hagar.
I thought
David-
Sammy
it's
Lee.
David
It's
Lee
David
Roth.
Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar.
Well, you guys get it. Whatever.
who was the third singer?
Either way, my mom knew him. My mom was a paramedic my whole life. She's working hard for Connecticut. So did Sammy D. Whatever the fuck his name is.
Yes.
He was a paramedic in Hartford. My mom's like, dude, I knew this guy, and I'm like, you're.
She did
I'm
not
like,
know Sammy
Yeah,
Hagar.
she did. She was like, dude, I was like, you're fucking with me, because I'm sitting there learning his songs on guitar in my living room, and she's like, oh, I know that
What
guy.
Van Halen song do you know how to play on the guitar?
You really got me.
Standing on Top of the World. I used to know Jamie's Crying. Running with the Devil, easy, primitive.
He's not playing Eruption.
Fuck you, because you knew.
What do you mean?
No, fuck you, because you. Before I was like, oh, I'm a guitar player. I just knew the choruses to every song in the universe. And then you came over one day after school. Remember, you were like a little kid. Mm-hmm. This kid's like 3 years younger than me. He's like, I was like, dude, you don't know how to fucking play guitar. He plays Poison, Talk Dirty to Me, front to back, solo included. And this kid's like fucking 14. I'm like sophomore in high school. He's like in 8th grade.
Yep.
And I was like, I immediately looked at him. I was like, you don't know anything about playing guitar. You got to get better.
And he was already better than you.
Yeah, and he was way better than me. And then we talked about Alex. Like, remember when Brody was on the podcast?
Yeah.
He's like, dude, me and Justin Edgar and this guy put in all this time and effort into that fucking talent show. And he's like, and then your brother came up there. He was 8 years younger than us, started playing Eruption and all that shit.
Yeah.
I can't believe you said Sammy Lee Hagar.
Sammy D.
Both fictional.
Not real.
I think I don't know what his middle name is, but yeah.
I think it's Daniel.
It might be.
It might
Maybe you're right. Maybe
I bet
I'm-
it's Lee, and they were like, we're not doing that again.
Maybe he's one of those guys. That's like, like my first name was like my dad's name, and I don't like him, so I
Yeah.
go by my middle name. Like
Yeah.
it might
Anyway.
be David Richard Lee, and he's like going by. I don't know.
He's going by
sorry,
Sammy
Lance.
D.
No,
This is what
apologize.
happens around
There's
here.
nothing to apologize for.
This is what happens.
Let's hit on really quick the Aaron Lewis interview.
Yes,
Because
yes,
you
thank
seemed
God.
to
Because everyone knows
really-
who that is.
Yeah. He
You
seems
met
to
him-
not
you
be
met him
very-
personally?
No, I have met him personally, but the interview that I did was over the phone. He just started pivoting towards wanting to do country, and he did a country EP and that song "Country Boy" that we play.
He was trying to do a little Darius.
Yeah, and it resonated. It was something that even the rock crowd did. So the rock label was like, we don't want to lose him. We want rock to still embrace Aaron Lewis and his new stuff. So they had me interview him, and the whole time he was kind of combative because he was like, you realize that this is a
combative or
no, because he was defiant in doing a rock interview. He goes, this is a country EP, right? And I was like, yeah, I realize the entire EP is country, but this song is still something that resonates with rock listeners. It's like, people who listen to country.
He didn't like that?
He couldn't rap because he was stoned.
Well, it's not. Maybe it's because he wasn't trying to go for that in that song, and you were like, "Hey, this is what it is," and he was like, "That's not what it was supposed to be."
Yeah, he couldn't wrap his head around it, and plus, he would start rambling, and I would try to interject to stop him because he was rambling about nothing, and finally, it wasn't working, so he just kept talking, and I let him talk, and then after about 10, 15 minutes of it, he goes, Why didn't you stop me?
Sounds like the Brody podcast.
And I was like, I tried to. I said, you wouldn't let me stop. He goes, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
He said that?
Yes.
Jesus.
And I was like, I have no idea what you're. I was like, dude, I lost you 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. No, hold on. Do you find that
No, think
is
about
that a thing with musicians? When you interview them, do you find that they're more out of it than in it?
No,
I don't think usually.
No, he's the only one.
So not everyone's just stoned out of their mind, rock and roll.
Aaron Lewis was stoned. There was this one chick.
Because I would hate that stereotype.
There was this one girl that was on Rockstar NXS. You remember that TV show? NXS was looking for a new singer after Michael
NXS, yes.
And it was like a rock star. It was like a American Idol for rock band, right? With NXS.
Yeah.
And
it's not the Jimmy Fallon show, is it?
NXS.
Yeah. But Dave Navarro hosted the show.
Yeah. Okay.
And this girl was on it, and I think she did a solo thing. And
who is it? Gwen Stefani was in NXS?
No.
Was it Gwen Stefani?
No.
She was in No Doubt.
No Doubt.
No Doubt. Yeah. No, Michael Hutchins was the guy that was in NXS.
There was a girl singer though.
No, not for NXS.
Oh, okay. I'm confused.
But
anyway, so
there was a girl that was auditioning to be a part of the band, and she did a solo EP. They asked if I would interview her. I was like, yeah, okay. And
you sound like us on the podcast.
And I did the interview, and I always try to do research, especially with somebody a name that I'm not familiar with, and I try to pronounce it correctly. So I don't remember who she was, but I remember seeing 3 different interviews. They all pronounced it. I said her name, and she goes, "No, it's pronounced like this," which is exactly the way that I did it. I was like, "That's what I said." She goes, "No, it's not." I was like, "Nah, actually, that's exactly what it is." She goes, "No, it's not." I was like, "All right, well, I'm going to cut this interview now because I'm doing this as a favor."
Right.
And you're being difficult.
And so I wish you luck with your career, but I'm done.
So most of the time
most of the time everybody's great, but there's only been a couple of 3 instances in all the years that I've done this.
So that was what you would consider as the worst one?
Yeah. I mean, most people listen. If an artist is doing an interview, I interviewed Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses once, right? And he was doing a book. He just released a book, and so he had all these interview slots. You had a 15-minute slot, and he was doing interviews for 4 hours.
Jesus.
And so he had all these 4 interviews an hour for 4 hours, 16 interviews set up.
You ever done anything like that?
Me? No, God, no. I mean, well, when you go to Rock on the Range, you set up interviews with different bands and everything like that. But
how does that work, man? When there's 85 bands there, how do you?
You just got to be at a certain tent at a certain time,
they have a media tent, like Rock on the Range.
So the bands come to the media tent,
yes,
and then you just sit there, you stick your microphone out, all those cycles on the internet.
No, before,
because there has to be at least
you'll have
200 different media outlets. You know what I'm saying?
Danny Wimmer puts on all those events, and and he has Rock on the Range in Columbus, Ohio. He has Louder Than Life in Louisville, Kentucky. Welcome to Rockville, Daytona, Florida.
Yep.
He has
Welcome to Rockville. I've heard of that.
He has 15 to 20 of these things all across the country. So it's regionalized. So when we went to Rock on the Range, you have maybe 20 to 30 radio stations that are there.
Jesus.
That's it?
Yeah, because you've got all these different
I thought that
concerts.
was a lot.
And
no, God, no. That doesn't sound like a lot at all.
And 30 radio stations? I think that's a lot.
Bro, what's his name from Sirius? What's his name there? The
Sirius XM?
Isaiah, yeah, but from not Lithium, the other one, Octane.
Octane, yeah.
Octane, yeah.
Yeah, that guy went to Rock on the Range. He would go to Rock on the Range.
He was at. I met him at.
But is there
Carolina
a first
Rebellion
come, first
too.
serve kind of thing?
No.
You got a press pass, right?
They'll tell us like 6 months in advance.
But
that
you
it's
got a
happening.
press pass, so when you show up,
so we apply for the
so
press.
the bands come to you.
Yeah, but then we talk to the labels and the management, and we say we want to do interviews. And so I know who I'm interviewing, when I'm interviewing him
At a
ahead of
certain
time.
point, you
Right.
have-
Okay,
you
that
have-
was the question.
I've got the entire itinerary
You had
lined
a
up.
schedule.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I know that I need to be at the media tent at 1:00 in the afternoon
Right.
because 3 Days Grace is going to come in. And
But
I've
do
got
you
an
set
interview
that
with
up with their managers, or
Yeah.
do you set that up with the band?
them. No, I set it up with their management.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
But like,
So let me ask you this.
but 30 sounds so astronomically small to me.
yeah, but 30.
You know what I'm saying? If he's coming from Watertown, New York, down to Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, but think.
You know what I
think
mean?
about
Like,
the way.
I feel like there'd be like 200.
Hey, think about it the way we're playing our band, like this show coming up.
No, it's
at
not
the
like
Paddock
the
Club.
way we're playing
We
our
got
band.
30 songs, right?
This is state.
We got 30 songs in 4 hours. It's a 9-hour show,
If
and
they've got-
he's getting 5 hours of airtime.
if they've got like 15 different festivals and you've got 30 radio stations that are showing, I mean, that's 500 radio stations over all the different festivals. So, I mean, maybe it was a little bit more than that, but it wasn't. I mean, they had one media tent and you had your own table.
Really?
And you had your, and we drive
You had
down,
your signs. You had your.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
What's one interview? I know you said you were starstruck about Kroger.
yeah.
What's
No,
in
I was
No,
Dave
no, he
Grohl.
said Dave Grohl.
Oh, Dave Grohl.
yeah.
Dave Grohl. I'm sorry. Is there another one that like you remember being like a little sweaty about?
Tom, well, I mean, like I said, like some of the most interesting interactions were the ones that happened organically. Tom Morello.
But did you ever meet your heroes?
Tom Morello is one of them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was this close, like literally this close to Tom Morello. They did the Prophets of Rage tour.
Right.
So my cousin's husband hit me up, and they were doing the Prophets of Rage. So it was them and
Lost Profits.
no Prophets of Rage.
No,
Yeah.
that's
Lost
what
Profits went away because the lead singer did some horrible things.
Yeah, no, it was the Prophets of
Oh,
Rage,
really?
and it was them from.
He raped a baby.
Yeah.
Like
So
the lead
it was
singer,
like
he's in prison for that. Yeah, he's a horrible douchebag.
It was Tom Morello, the bassist for Rage
I
Against
thought
the
they
Machine.
were on the same
I
label
forget
as
his
like
name.
POD or some shit.
POD was on Atlantic Records. Lost Profits was. I'm not sure. I mean, like they had a couple of big hits, but the lead singer.
So who's
It's crazy.
So who's besides Tom Morello?
Prophets of Rage was also Chuck D from
Chuck D
Public
and
Enemy,
B Real from Public
and
Enemy.
B
That was
Real
it.
from Cypress Hill.
Cypress Hill.
Okay.
Be Real and Chuck D. Chuck D, Public Enemy, Be Real from Cypress Hill. And then Tom Morello, the bassist and the drummer were
From
Rage Against
yeah,
the
they
Machine.
had basically Rage
I
Against the
saw
Machine.
them at a casino in Connecticut at a Mohegan Sun.
Nice.
It was unreal. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a little different. They played the songs perfectly, but here,
Yeah,
Chuck
but
D,
it's not Zach De La Rocha.
Exactly.
Zach De La Rocha
exactly.
is like-
Chuck D was
he's
doing
at a different level.
Chuck D was doing the vocals.
It's just
so
because
like
he's so you can't replicate
No,
that, man.
you can't.
Like that's original as hell.
not only the accent, because I mean he's like Mexican. You know what I'm saying? He's Spanish origin. You know what I'm saying? Not only the accent, like he had all the words right and the flavor and everything, but
It's not the same.
The angst and the anger wasn't there. Like
The tone wasn't there.
Zach De La Rocha was a very angry man.
The best live performance I've ever seen in my life was Rage Against the Machine at Woodstock 99 in Rome, New York.
Really, you were there?
Dude,
I was there.
they felt that. That was when they.
What night
they-
was that? Was
they-
that
they
wasn't the
came
fire
out-
night
No,
when Fred
no,
Durst
no,
and
no.
every-
the night before.
No, they came right out. Rage Against the Machine came at that show. They came right out after. It was a classic rock band. It wasn't even.
I don't think so, man.
I think it was like not.
There's a documentary on Netflix right
I
now.
watched
about-
it.
documentary
I
was
seen the
bullshit.
show. There
It was
so,
bullshit,
it was
man.
such
It
bullshit.
was literally, dude. And
They tried to make it out like it was like
every white
was-
man in America sucks. Pretty much is what that documentary was trying to fucking.
it was
tell
the
you.
promoters that screwed up the entire thing. Like,
Dude, wicked bad, bro.
we got there, and the first day, half the security quit because there was
Yeah.
it was, and so they only had
$9
security that was
bottles
backstage.
of water and shit.
Well, and ice and the lines for everything were incredibly long, and then the camping section that they had sectioned off is like.
Oh, they had tents out
you
there?
had we had our tent, and all the tents were overlapping.
You were in a tent.
I was in a tent.
Your media crew. You got a press
dude,
pass.
No, I did not. As a matter of fact, for this one, I talked to my boss, and I was like, dude, just get me tickets for this. I said, I'll go. I'll do call-ins. I said, I'll take my own vacation time. I'll pay for everything.
the fuck?
My boss comes back a week later, goes, I got one better for you. He goes, here's what's going to happen. He goes, we're going to do a contest. and you're going to go up with a listener and a guest, and you're going to go up in the new VW Beetle, and you're going to eat Taco Bell all the way.
Who was the listener?
It was this chick, and she got her best friend who hated road trips. We were driving from Fort Myers, Florida to Rome, New York.
Get the fuck out of here.
That's 2 days. That's a 2 day.
This is when you were living in Miami.
I was
You
living-
came all the way up here
Yeah.
for this.
How old are you? 26, 27?
Yeah, she hated road trips, and she hated camping. I was like,
Perfect.
why are you
Take a
on
camping
this?
road trip.
Yeah,
Right.
I
was the
love
worst.
camping and I love road
So
trips.
as the whole
I'm
trip
in this
up
band.
was horrible. So dropped her off, and I went and watched all the bands. But it's like the promoters screwed everything up. Like, listen, I'm not saying that there weren't some misogynistic pricks that were there doing some
course.
bad
Yeah,
things.
yeah, that's to
obviously.
be expected.
But saying
yeah.
that everybody there was an asshole is bullshit.
No,
and that's
no.
what that documentary
Yeah,
is
it
trying to
did.
exemplify, bro.
Hey, and that's why we're
bullshit,
asking you.
dude.
We're not watching a Netflix documentary.
Right.
No,
Like,
I've
what
watched,
was
dude, and
your-
that's what they say. Pretty much, like if you watch that, you're like, okay,
like-
so every white male that was ever at this event
It's
is
like
a
if you think of the
misogynistic-
times,
Hey,
the testosterone, and it was jocks. and
They
it was-
did the same thing with the Woodstock documentaries. Like when Jimmy played,
Well, that's what
they're
this
like,
was.
they're like, there was like, okay, Jimmy played Woodstock, and then the rest of the documentary is just a bunch of hippies tripping on acid.
Dude,
There was a
it's-
bunch of drugs.
Think about the promoter who put that on, and then he came back and he tried to do it again a couple
Yeah.
of years ago
Couldn't.
down in Watkins Glen.
And he was caught.
He signed contracts with people, but he didn't have a venue.
Oh, you're talking about 3 years ago from
Yes.
2020.
Yes,
Yes, dude.
yeah.
The same promoter who put all
Built
those
it up, dude. Had all these bands lined
Yeah.
up, and they're like, "Oh, never mind. That
And then
show's
no one-
not happening
yeah.
anymore because it's good. Like it was supposed to be the 50th year anniversary.
Yeah,
and
it's
shit. And
Fire
then they had to
Festival
cancel it.
Part 2.
That was the same promoter from the
Same
'99.
promoter,
I
yes.
didn't know that. Dude.
Yes.
Wow.
No, it wasn't Firefest. It was Woodstock.
No, but
Firefest
I
Part
said
2.
it's fire, but it's kind of like
quote
Firefest
unquote.
too.
Yeah, Firefest was a clusterfuck.
No, I didn't
We
know
ain't
that
getting
was
into
a,
that right now.
bro. That motherfucking because they even call that guy out in that documentary that we're
Right.
talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like they talk.
Oh, they called him out hard.
He has a press conference
Oh, yeah.
on a podium and talking to these people.
He got sued.
He,
Homeboy got
know.
sued. He had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in restitution.
Yeah, that show was a disaster, bro.
All right, now listen, Lance.
yes.
We've asked you once, and we kind of got off the beaten path. But here, the podcast is what we want here. Like your worst interview.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Lewis was the worst interview. That guy was horrible. He was just like a total. He rambled, and when you're trying to do an interview with somebody, I mean, you try to at least have bullet points, like
Right.
you guys are talking about. You try to have a direction of where you want to go. In your head, you have these questions that you want to answer, and he just rambled and rambled and rambled.
Welcome to the podcast, dude.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you guys.
Yeah.
That's why I'm.
But
flattered
he
to be a
was
part of-
just not a great contributor.
No, he wasn't. And he got pissed at me because I wasn't stopping him from rambling on. I was like, dude, I tried. I legitimately
You did.
tried.
and you had to scrap the whole thing.
No, I have like 3 or 4 questions, and then sometimes you try to organically go off of one, like part B, part C, part D, from each different question or something like that, because you're like, the interview kind of leads where it's going to go. And 99 times out of 100, the interviews are amazing. Like everybody's just super cool, and they know exactly-
99 out of 100, they're good.
Absolutely.
Most people are.
No,
are
everybody.
great.
Everybody's been fantastic.
I
See,
feel like-
that's good to hear.
I feel like
like
you're also
hearing that.
I feel like you're a good interview as well, though, because like we've never had we were never pulling strings to like answer questions. Like you ask the right questions and then you sit back, you let us in, and then we feel like rock stars getting interviewed at a radio station. How'd you feel when you first went to 94 Rock and had your fucking?
Oh,
first
dude, I
interview?
felt on top
Dude,
of the
you
world.
felt like a goddamn rock star.
I mean,
man.
well, it's
Yeah.
92.5.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
doing
you did
for
the
out,
tunes.
doing for
Yep.
out chasing lions. But
No, but with him, I took 88 pictures.
Yeah.
Dude,
I recorded the whole thing and I put it
Dude,
all over my
there's
social media.
butterflies on your way there,
Yeah,
and
Lance,
it's really cool
Lance,
that you gave us that
when
opportunity,
Lav
man.
did it, Lav just booked it. He goes, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna make these phone calls," and I was sitting there like, "Okay, yeah, like have fun with your phone calls, you know." And he's like, "We got Lancer in a month." He's like, "And we're gonna be on 94.1 in 2 days." He's texting me and Jake, and he's like, "What are you guys doing on Wednesday?" And I'm like, "I'm working at 5. I got to get my kid from school at 3." He's like, "Okay, cool." The radio interview's at 2:30. And like me and Jake were like, "Hey, man, like that's the inspiration." But that's what it takes. Like, yeah, it feels silly at the time.
It didn't feel silly, man.
It felt silly a little bit. It's like, why? Like, we already got this boy on our podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
no, we didn't though.
No, you booked him before we were on 94.1.
Yeah, but I guess, but
it was like I said, it's all organic. You know what I'm saying? You had us on there.
Yeah.
You plugged us. We plugged you. But you know what I'm saying? Like it just.
Yeah. I was gonna say because we kind of brushed over it, but you said that you had organically met Tom Morello.
He came up. He came up and talked
to him personally.
He came up and talked to me.
Okay.
I touched his foot.
I was at Lollapalooza in Cincinnati, Ohio, at Riverfront Stadium, and it was Jane's Addiction, Audio
that's
Slave.
Dave Navarro, right?
Dave Navarro, Perry Farrell.
The tattoo guy, the guy that's got
Dave
the
Navarro was there with
Inkmaster.
Carmen Electra.
What a
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
for
what
real?
a fucking
She was
joke.
there, and he had her on such
What
a
year
short
was
leash.
this?
This was 2002.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
2002.
I was 11.
She was with Dennis Rodman the month before that.
She's so short, man.
Monroe?
No,
Carmen Electra.
Electra. Oh, yeah, she was definitely with Rodman.
So, it was Jane's Addiction. It was Audio
Dave
Slave,
Navarro.
Incubus, Queens of the
love
Stone
Audio
Age,
Slave.
and the Donnas.
What the fuck? See, that's the show I want to go to.
That was phenomenal. It was
You guys
such a
talk
good
about
show.
Rock on the Range and Ozfest
was
and shit. You
such
guys
a
are
good
talking about that set is
It was
that
great.
is incredible.
My morning guy was interviewing Chris Cornell. And so I'm standing there watching him doing the interview, and I'm wearing a Cubs
you
hat.
met Chris Cornell personally?
I did not meet Chris Cornell. Chris Cornell was doing an interview with our morning guy. But I was wearing a Cubs hat, and Tom Morello is a Cubs fan. So he just comes up to me. He's like, "So how do you think the Cubs are going to do this year?" And I didn't know who was talking to me.
108 years,
Well, I was like,
bitch.
"Holy shit!"
108 years. This is our year.
I was like, "Tom Morello." I was like, "Hey, buddy," and so we talked baseball.
You
for
knew
like
him
half
right
an-
off the bat just by looking at me. Like,
Oh, because he's wearing his hat.
you don't-
It's Tom Morello, man.
yeah.
So we started talking. We just talked baseball for half an hour.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Tom Morello's a baseball fan?
Yeah, huge baseball
Oh, my
fan.
God. Dude, like I said,
He's also a major in
I went and
political
saw
science
him.
from Harvard.
My cousin,
Yes, he is,
my
yeah.
cousin.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, he is. No, and his mother is.
Dude, that's
so
insane.
I said,
Nice
I went
guy.
the first time I saw Tom
30
Morello, the
minutes.
first and only
30
time.
minutes with Tom Morello about baseball?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me, bro?
Then I interviewed him.
Dude, that makes me
a
love
couple
him.
of years later.
That makes me love him so much
And
more.
I interviewed him a couple of years later after the White Sox had won the World Series, and they
05.
were
Ozzie Guillen was our manager.
they were pimping the Audio Slave Live in Cuba DVD, and I was on with him and Tim Comerford, and
Get the fuck out of here.
and he was like talking. I was like, "Listen, you're not going to remember this," but I said we talked once before about baseball. So the entire interview deviated from talking about the DVD.
Did he remember you?
He didn't, but we talked baseball again. He goes, does it piss you off that the White Sox won before the Cubs? I was like, no.
Yeah,
man.
it
I
does
was like- I was
because
like-
the White Sox fixed the World Series.
I was like, well,
There's a
19
reason the Cubs didn't win for 108 years, and the White Sox won in like 1955.
But the whole interview was baseball again. It was
Dude,
like
that's
it's just
so cool.
Dude,
you
that
should have
makes-
looked at him, but yo, fuck the South Side.
Dude, that
Yeah.
makes me love
You know
him
what I'm saying?
so much more.
He's awesome. He's a
Tom
great guy.
Morello was always. I mean, you remember back, Rage Against the Machine was like one of we played 3 Rage Against the Machine songs. We played "Sleep Now in the Fire." We played,
killing the name.
"Killing in the Name," and we played
Bulls on Parade.
Bulls on Parade. And then I went and finally saw Tom Morello live, but granted, it wasn't Rage Against the Machine. It was the Prophets of
Prophets, right.
Rage. But so I was sitting there, and the stadium, it was in a fucking casino. And when I walked in the casino, Foghat was playing in the middle of the casino. Like not even the bottom part where I was going to the show. Foghat was just playing in the middle of the casino.
There's no circumstance where Foghat and Tom Morello should be be in the same venue.
Foghat probably
You
got
know what I
paid
mean?
$85, no bathroom breaks to play this fucking show. So I'm sitting there watching Foghat, slow ride, say shit like that. I'm like, okay, so then we go down to the Rage Against the Machine show, and Imagine Dragons opened for them.
Oh wow.
And I don't like that band. I don't like it.
My daughter loves that.
So
band,
instead of listening
They
to
put on a
Imagine
good show, honestly.
instead of listening to Imagine Dragons, I just went and had cocktails instead. So I get to the show, right? And it's Prophets of Rage, so it's Tom Morello, the original man, but plus Chuck B and Be Real. And I'm like, okay, so they start playing the songs, and I'm just sitting back there like, oh, having a good time. All of a sudden, the mosh pit breaks out. And I was right in the middle of it, like when it broke out. And I was like, oh, I don't want no part of this. And I snuck out the back and I went around to the right-hand side because everyone's bunched up in the middle, killing. And like I said, it's not like a packed show. So everyone's sitting there doing mosh pit, and I just walked right to the front of the stage, and I just grabbed Tom Morello by the tip of his shoe.
Nice.
Yeah, like that. I just touched him, and he looked at me, and I was like, we just understood each other. I was like, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
And then he just did his motherfucking thing.
That was the start of Evan's foot fetish.
No, that wasn't the start.
That wasn't the. That was the.
No,
very
my
peak.
mom was the start of my foot fetish. Don't you?
All right.
You gotta be out of your mind.
So is Dave Grohl the biggest icon you've ever interviewed, or have you talked to somebody like Hetfield or Axl or or like
No, but I
Brian May?
I met Axl's dad once.
Get the
Really?
fuck out of here.
Yeah, 'cause,
Where?
when I was in high school, my best friend's mom
Is his dad as overweight as he is now?
is
Or-
Axl's aunt.
What?
Yeah, because she used to babysit Axl and Izzy when they lived in Lafayette, Indiana, and then they moved to Carbondale, Illinois, where I went to high school. I became best friends with Deborah Rose, is her maiden name,
Get the fuck out.
and
Deborah Rose.
so when
Shout out Deborah.
Axl's dad got out of prison at Marion State Penitentiary, he came and slept on the couch at his sister's place.
So you just had a little casual
went there-
slumber party with Axl's family?
No, I went. Well, I've known them for years, and
So that's his actual last name
his-
is Rose?
Yes, that's his real last name.
Guns N' Roses.
William.
I
Axl
know
Rose.
what the name of the
I thought
band is.
Axl was a fake
That's
name.
his middle name. Yeah, William Axl.
What's
Rose.
his William's his
Yeah.
first name? See, I thought Axl was a fake name.
Yeah, and I
William Rose.
Dude, that's hardcore.
my buddy Chris said, "Oh,
That's
this is
so rock
This is
and
my
roll.
uncle, Bill Bailey or something like that." And
Bailey.
Bill Bailey.
William-
See, that sounds fake.
and
William Rose sounds.
and I was like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" He goes, "Hey," and that was it. Yeah, but I mean,
No shit.
was he fat then, or was he skinny when you met him?
his dad. I mean, I didn't meet Axl wasn't there.
Oh,
Axl
okay,
wasn't there.
okay.
Like Guns N' Roses was already huge at the time.
Dude, you're dying to say something.
No. Sorry, I'm.
You're
spacing
making
out.
me uncomfortable.
Sorry, I'm spacing out. I didn't get to piss on the piss break because I didn't have to. So I'm not trying to count my chickens
Do
before
we
they
need,
hatch.
do we need
you know?
another one of those?
No, we're
no,
good.
because I need you real quick.
I could use another piss break. I'm dying.
Well,
What were you gonna say, Lev?
I was gonna say, man, I wanted to ask Lance what his take on is like the whole resurgence of the pop punk scene. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think
like as a radio host, what he's trying as a radio, like we just started. We had this great idea that we wanted to play this pop.
Scrape us for a second.
Yeah,
but
scrape
have
us.
You,
We had
have
this
you
idea.
noticed anything resurging as far as like bands like Blink-182 and Paramore and My Chemical Romance?
Is
and
that
shit like
style
that.
of music coming
Do you
back?
notice that at all?
I think that whenever you get a band like a band that's had like those moments like My Chemical Romance and Paramore and Blink-182 that come back, I think people always clamor to kind of revisit the past, especially if it's something that
nostalgia sells for sure,
without a doubt. And I was talking about this with my consultant like a couple of weeks ago before Christmas about like if you looked at the top 6 records on the charts, you would think it was 1999 again. It was Metallica, it was Bush, it was Blink-182,
Chili Peppers.
it was Ozzy Osbourne, it was the Chili Peppers. It was like bands that were big back in the late 90s and the early 2000s that were all of a sudden
they were pushing the envelope.
Yeah, but they're making music that's better than they've done in like 10, 15 years.
Look at Chili Peppers now. Like he's singing with like an Irish accent.
Yeah, it was
in his new song.
It was,
you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Like
But-
they're conforming to things.
But it was
That
also John Frusciante
that pop
coming
punk,
back.
I'm going with what Brendan just asked you. That pop punk era was such a small window. You know what I'm saying? It was a very small window.
Punk's always been around.
Punk's
Yeah, I was
been
gonna say,
around,
man,
but
it's
but
not
it-
as small
but it's
as a
not-
window as you
but-
think,
But it's
bro.
not coming on the radio anymore. It's not getting the popularity.
Well, yes,
but now,
it is.
but now all of a sudden, yes, now it is. That's what he was asking you. Like, are you getting more play on the radio versus like like you got your the 90-minute Metallica mandatory.
A lot of it just depends on what you get. Like I hear 20 to 30 records every week.
Yeah, that's
that are
tough.
trying, and you've only got so many slots because you still have to play the older stuff because that's what people want to hear. They want to hear 70s, 80s, 90s rock, early 2000s. They want to hear all that.
Yeah, that's a tough.
Yeah, so you have to play that, and then you're trying to pepper in new music to turn people on to new stuff because honestly, you can't just rely on.
What's your ratio for pepper to classic? Like if you're gonna pepper in new music, like what's your ratio?
It's
in your
changed,
mindset?
man. Like back in the 90s, it was probably like 50-50. And
It's half in, half off.
And now it's probably more like 80-20.
Really?
Yeah.
20 being the
20 being the new music,
Yeah.
and 80 being the gold.
See, that's a big difference.
It's a
But
major
if we go to
difference.
if we go to your studio, there's tons of bands posters that you have. You know what I'm saying?
that I've accumulated through the years.
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying.
So
But you're still playing those
Absolutely.
tracks
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You're playing the Sevenfold, you're playing the Metallica,
Yeah, but
you're
20
also
but
you're also
2080.
but you're also playing the Hardy, you're also playing the Greta Van Fleet.
well,
you're
that's
also,
my favorite part of the job. My favorite part of the job is playing something new. It's like when I hear
I was just gonna ask you, is that the hard part? Like coming off the classics into like trying to put the new wave in, like, because you guys are the radio, right? You know what I'm saying, you instill into our minds what we think is like, okay, if you play one, like I hear a song by Greta Van Fleet, right? Heard it the first time, I'm like, oh, I don't, not my thing.
Then you hear it
You
three
play it
more
over the radio
times.
50 fucking times a week. I'm like, oh yeah, no, Greta Van Fleet is the shit.
Right.
Do you have a conflict of interest with that kind of thing?
no, I no, and it's interesting because I love hearing new music. It's like
But do you adjust to it the same way that everyone else does? Like, do you not like you're gonna play it?
I come at it from a different place, though. You know?
Right. That's what I'm exactly.
I
what
come
I'm
at
trying
it
to
from a
say,
different
yeah.
place to where it's like, people send stuff and it's like you kind of make the decision within the first 60 seconds.
Exactly.
Whether you think it's a song worthy
Right,
of
but have
playing
you ever
anymore.
heard a song and you're like, okay, like this is the new band coming up. I heard the song. I don't particularly like it, but you're gonna play it anyway.
So, well, like for instance, and it's no band specifically, but like the labels will constantly work us on. Like they don't just send it to you blind. And
The
say,
labels will call you.
Oh, the labels call every week.
Oh no shit.
And the labels are like, hey, have you had a chance to listen to this new Hardy record?
Oh,
or
see,
something
I had
like
no
that?
idea. I thought it was the bands reaching out.
No, it's the labels. They have label reps, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I heard it. I thought it was okay. Sounded
But
like,
you got to play cool a little bit, right?
well, these guys are also your friends. It's like I've
But
known
they'll
these
also take advantage
the
if you get a little too excited.
the record reps that I deal with. I mean, they're great people. I got great relationships with all these guys, and I try to shoot them straight. I always do. Like, they'll be like, what do you think of this? I was like, it sounds like 10 other bands. I don't really like it. We'll spend some more time with it. All right, well, and then I watch the charts to kind of see, and if it starts to grow, other stations are going, I'll be like, all right, well, I'll revisit it. And then maybe I'll come back around after the third or fourth listen, because there's some of those songs that maybe they don't hit you right off the bat.
Right. See, that was the exact opposite of what I thought. I was like, the songs that hit you right off the bat.
Well, those are the ones
He goes, they might not hit me off the bat all the time. It may take 6 months.
Some do, and some get like Bad Flower. The first time I heard them, I was like, I got excited by Bad Flower. I wanted to play them. This song Hardy, that Jack song that I played, that got me excited. I wanted to play it. When Disorder, a local band, came up with Worth It, I got excited. There are some of those songs that when you first hear it, you're like, I have to play this. I have to play this, even if it's not a hit out of the box, because I think that our listeners need to hear it. It's like, and I get excited about that.
And they'll get accustomed to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's the cool part about your job. You're the filter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a double-bladed sword. Like, you could go good or bad. Like, you can get scrutinized or you can be the hero.
I was
Well,
gonna
sometimes-
say when we reached out to you when we just dropped Underwater Town, I was like, hey man, like these are the songs we want you to play, and you were like, I don't know, man, like Pilot is my favorite. That's the one I want to play. And we are like, dude,
That's
by
my
all
favorite
means.
too. By
I
the
was
way.
like, but
And
we,
you're like-
we asked you to spin one, and you were like, I think this is
Dude,
the better one. We were like, dude, fucking your
perfect
judgment.
example. Hey, we got
Your
this whole
judgment.
album. We want you to play this one. He's like, I want you to play this one.
Yeah,
But that's cool that he listened to the whole goddamn, because that's the last song on that fucking album. So
It was-
you know what I'm saying?
no, it's the sixth.
It was
But,
just like he said when he walked in here. He's like, I did my homework on you guys before I came. He's like, I listened.
Yeah,
he
but
did the same thing with
I
your
thought
band.
I thought that was cool though, because like I feel like a lot of radios would just be like, okay, dude, cool, sounds good, we'll put it on.
Yeah,
but
fuck
you
it.
took the time to actually listen to it and then give your honest opinion. Like, no, dude, I think this more so fits our style and is a better.
And that in itself is an art. Like I mean, in art is
No,
one
it
word,
is.
but
No,
like,
it
I mean,
definitely
it's an art, but it's also it's like a restraint on like your personal.
Well, you
know what I'm
talk
saying?
about a filter.
Especially in your job, you can't take everything personal.
I try to listen to it through a prism of how's it going to sound on the radio?
Right. You don't take it personal. Oh, this guy's my friend.
Sound
He's got a great band.
Godsmack and Metallica.
Right.
And when and specifically with the bigger bands that are out there, the labels, I listen to the song that they give me because that's what they're pushing.
Right.
But specifically with local bands, I want to help them out. So it's like
But you also can't be biased.
But I will take that extra, time to listen to the entirety of what they have.
Yep.
When Disorder sent me their EP, same thing. I was like, no, dude, Worth It that's a smash.
That's
dude.
the one.
That song, and
the rest of the album is side
I
B.
even told labels, I was like, this is a smash. You need to.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's exactly what he was just saying. He's like,
and
it's nice to like put it out there. And
I was just like, dude, this song is a radio song. This is a song that people.
Yeah, you were like, I know our listeners, and this is what is going to go over.
I'm not in an original rock band like he is. And he put it out there. He's like, okay, obviously all of our friends are going to tell us what we want to hear. He hit it with you, and you were like, this one.
Well, and I've had difficult conversations with bands that have come in, and they're like, "Hey, will you play this?" And I was like, "For local licks, yeah, but I can't play it in rotation."
Right,
and they're like, "Why?"
Oh my God, isn't that exactly what we've been going through?
Because
with the podcast?
this is my job, bro. Like,
right.
I know what's gonna do well on this radio station.
I also try to help them. I'm like, listen, I know you guys have put everything that you guys have into doing an album, and that's great, but go into the studio and put it into one song and make it sound because. Like I say, I want to say, how is it going to sound between Godsmack and Metallica? If it's going to stand out in a negative way, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the song. It could be the production value of it because, it costs a lot of money to get into the studio.
Fucking hey, it does.
I'm just like, dude, if it doesn't sound up to snuff, and this is the first impression that listeners are going to get of your band.
The first impression.
Is that what you want? And I don't want that for you. And I've had a couple of bands that got pissed off at me because they're like, well, screw you. You don't want to help out local. I was like, no, it's not that. It's like, I'm trying to help you guys.
Like, I gave you the advice. You didn't fucking follow it.
Right.
No, so here's what happened, bro. The first time we sat down with Lancer, he goes, go get it mastered and then bring it back to me.
Yeah.
And we
don't give me no half-ass.
we brought him some half-ass recorded bullshit, and then he was like, yo, that's not right. I'm like, okay. So we all go and have it mastered in Syracuse, and I still have the message. He goes, you did exactly what the fuck I told you to do. This will be spinning for the next month.
Can everyone do a golf clap?
Dude, yeah.
Golf
no,
clap?
you were absolutely right, bro. You absolutely did. I don't know if it was Dig Your Grave or Forevermore or something.
I think it was Forevermore.
Forevermore.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, this sounds way more professionally sound.
Well, I knew that you guys had something, and I'm just like, dude, first impression, it's got to be tits. It's got to be like,
and
it's got to be a home run.
Right. It didn't sound
and
right.
I don't want that for the local bands. It's like, when you're trying to help out bands to get to that next page, it's like all these listeners, it's like they can be very judgmental.
Right.
It's like when you listen to it on local
saying, like
licks,
your opinion holds weight. You know what I'm saying? Like what you just said about their band, like if we would approach you about this,
for our best interest, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Like we approached you about the podcast, you would have never plugged us on your radio station if you didn't think that we were worth it.
Well, I love this guy right here, and I've known him for a lot of years.
Exactly.
He's good shit.
But it is all about who you know to some extent. But
absolutely,
just like
I don't disagree
like I said,
with
you're
that.
talking about Aaron Lewis and all these guys, and you're like, dude, I'd rather not done it with Aaron Lewis. Mm-hmm. We were like, hey, can we plug our minuscule podcast on your show? And you're like, yeah, no, you guys are real. Like,
well, he's been through the ringer, man. He's done everything.
Yeah, but he also doesn't do anything he doesn't believe in, and he believes in this, and that's huge.
Well, I watched the videos, and I was like, yeah, this is a great show. I'd love to be a part of it. It's fun, and you guys make it fun. So,
yeah,
we try to, man, and then we got this guy over here. But yeah, dude, man. I just think you need to figure out a way to give me a pass to Rock on the Ring.
I was wondering where he was going with that. Actually, I feel like we're kind of rounding the corner on wrapping this up, but I want to say one more thing. You guys were talking about Nickelback earlier, and as soon as you mentioned,
let's get back to the Nickelback, baby.
This is just a little like a side anecdote, but it's so funny because when I had first started like uploading these pods, and when I got on the YouTube, I saw that the one channel we were subscribed to was the Nickelback official YouTube, and I was like, so we have one subscription, and it was that channel. I was like, is that a joke? Because they're the ass end of jokes of all music. Old fucking Nickelback,
but
right?
Why though? You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree, right? They're like the Guy Fieri of music. But
no, they're awesome. Have you ever listened? Have you ever seen Nickelback?
No, that's what I'm saying. Great.
Lance, have you ever seen
get shit
Nickelback
on
live?
for no reason?
Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen numerous times. Yeah.
They're unbelievable.
But that's. I'm sure the cameras are fine. I'm sure the microphones are fine.
But seriously, man, dude.
Anyways, I thought it was funny that like everyone always shits on Nickelback, and when I saw that we were like subscribed to them and them only, I was like, that's a funny joke. And then I came over, and over the past 4 weeks, I realized that Lav is a huge Nickelback fan.
How can you not be a Nickelback fan, bro?
The shortest radio stint I ever had was in Charleston, South Carolina. And
Really?
I went to this station, 96 Wave. And I went there because it was just in Rolling Stone magazine as one of the 5 last great rock stations in the country. And I was like, that's fantastic. And they wanted to hire me to program it. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm in. Mm-hmm. So I go there, and they want to revamp the playlist because they feel like they're kind of missing the mark. So I went back and did research on how, their biggest successes. And they'd stopped playing some of the mainstream rock bands. They weren't playing Nickelback. They weren't playing Breaking Benjamin. They weren't playing some of those bands. And they were like one of those too hip for the room stations. Mm-hmm. And so I rearranged the playlist. And they signed me to a contract, and they were like, we want you to be the number one non-ethnic 18 to 34-year-old station in the market. They said there's an urban station that's number one, and they're number one every single book. There's a Hispanic station that's number two, and they're number two every single book. We want you to come in number three. And I was like, okay, revamp the entire playlist. First ratings book comes out 2 months later. Boom, they shot up to number one. We were phenomenal, right? And I started playing Nickelback, started playing all this other stuff. I had people on the streets, why are you playing that? I was like, because that's what people want to hear. Just because you 5 people, don't like it, whatever, that's fine. So number one, then the owner called me up to his office, and he was like, I want to talk to you. And I was like, I'm going to get a pat on the back because I did exactly what they said in the contract. Oh, for the next 2.5 hours,
flipped out?
He flipped out at me, the general manager. They were yelling at me because they had dropped off of another demo. And I was like,
really?
I said, that's not the demo that you hired me for. You hired me to do this. So I did this.
They yelled at you for doing your job?
Oh, my God.
Wow.
For 2.5 hours.
They
dude.
screamed at you for doing your job?
Yes, for
Like
2.5 hours.
If you wanted me to play Sean Kingston, I would have played that. But you hired me to play Nickelback.
2.5 hours. They and I went home, and we had just bought a new house in South Carolina.
And you were like, dude, I'm fucked.
And that's exactly it.
There's no way.
And
what was their rebuttal to you saying I did exactly what you told me to do?
I would hope it was,
said, well, we
I'm
thought
sorry.
They said, well, you were supposed to keep this other down. I was like, that's not part of the contract. Yeah. That is not what you look at.
You gave me a press pass.
Right. And
that's just ridiculous.
And so
you were playing like Three Doors Down, Breaking Benjamin, Nickelback.
And the funny thing is that we started playing Nickelback, Breaking Benjamin, and 3 Days Grace again. And the ratings went through the roof. We beat the other rock station in the market. We obliterated them.
So what's the issue?
And then they had a concert that came to the area. So, okay, well, if nobody likes Nickelback, 3 Days Grace, and Breaking Benjamin, there should be nobody there, right?
Right.
Sold out.
17,000 people showed up. It was sold out. It was sold out.
Who doesn't like Nickelback? You tell me who don't like Nickelback.
All these people were like, we hate Nickelback, we hate Nickelback. I saw those same people at the freaking show.
Yeah, why were you there? Why are you there pumping your fists then?
What's going on?
Did you ever used to watch VH1 Classic like That Metal Show? Did you ever watch that with like Eddie Trunk?
Yes, I did see that show, yeah.
Okay, and then there was
That's old. That's an oldie.
It was about 10 years, 2012,
That's an oldie.
2013.
That's an oldie.
Did you ever see they did a documentary called Metal Evolution?
I did not see that.
So it starts from the British wave of heavy metal, and then it goes into like thrash, and then
grunge.
Grunge is like the second to last episode, and then post grunge is
they're doing like a history of the years.
Yeah. And post grunge is like the last episode they do. It's like
I never
a
saw it
episode
either.
thing. I showed you.
You did not show me shit.
So they interview guys like like Ozzy, and they even interview guys from like the Melvins and shit. And then the last episode for the post grunge,
that's
they
deep.
interview
You're
Mark
digging that.
Tremonti, Scott Stapp, and Chad Kroeger.
Nice.
And Chad Kroeger goes, anybody that hates Nickelback, he goes, we haven't played for less than 18,000 people in 18 years.
Yo, fuck money. fuck money and fuck.
He goes, if you don't like us,
nah, fuck money and fuck.
he goes, I'll say, you ever seen a Nickelback show?
Right.
And they'll say, well, no. He goes, well, maybe you should.
Nah, fuck
because
money.
We haven't
and
played for less than almost 20,000.
fuck
people.
money and fuck the crowd with Nickelback. Me and Lav have been in a working band, cover band for.
We haven't been in 10 years.
Well, not in. I mean, we've been retired. We have been retired for 5 years. But when we were working, we were together for 7, and we played Nickelback songs. I don't
sure
care.
they went over great.
I don't care how much you hate Nickelback. I don't care.
They write good tracks.
I don't
bro.
care what the internet tells you to think about Nickelback. I fucking double dog dare you to cover one of their songs.
They're
As
not
a,
easy.
As a guitarist, it's easy. You know, perfect example. The song
contradicted
Animals. The song Animals. You know,
Right.
We're just a couple animals. I fucking dare you to sing that.
Can you imagine hanging out on their tour bus?
I dare you to sing Photograph.
Dude, one of their best songs is "Side of a Bullet" because it has Dimebag
It's-
Darrell's guitar.
dude,
solo
it's-
in it.
Absolutely.
But his
bro.
vocals are
Oh, he's
unmatchable.
he's
the
great.
dude's a freak of fucking nature.
He's got a great.
Dime played the
Everyone's
solo in that, didn't he?
Nickelback's the worst
Yeah,
man in the world.
because after Dime was murdered, he wrote "Side of a Bullet" and he told Vinnie Paul about it, and Vinnie said, "I have all the outtakes."
Wait, who wrote it? Dime wrote it?
No.
Chad wrote it?
Chad wrote it about that night.
Yeah.
And he told Vinnie Paul, and Vinnie Paul's like, "I've got all these outtakes from Dime, from like some Pantera album. Maybe it was Vulgar Display of Power or something like that." And he said, "Go through them, see if you can find anything." And he found
A solo that worked over that
found
key?
a solo
Wow,
that worked
That's awesome.
inside of a bullet, and that's Dimebag.
You know,
Have
Dimebag.
you-
I watched a documentary on him, and he goes. I always say that my riffs are the shit. And they were like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I write all my best songs on the toilet." He's like, "Yeah, Vinny and Dime." Like even Vinny was like, he's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, Dime always kept a guitar in his bathroom.
Jesus Christ, you would.
He's
never
like,
leave.
so when he went in there and he was taking a poop, and you know me, I'm a big shitter.
I know you are.
That's all
You
that
know,
matters.
I'm a big shitter, like 20 minutes minimum. You know what I'm saying? He's like, and Dimebag was like, yeah. He's like, all my riffs are the shit. He's like, because I write them on the toilet when I'm
Jesus.
pooping.
That's gotta be bullshit.
He wrote Walk. You know,
While he was sitting.
back. Walk like that.
I saw them live.
He
one
wrote
time.
that
They're
on
phenomenal.
he wrote that on the toilet.
That's funny.
He's like, I come up with all my best riffs when I'm taking a shit. He's like,
my
my riffs are
cousin
the shit.
was at that Damage Planet show.
Was he?
Yeah.
At the El Rosa?
It was like in North Carolina or whatever,
It was
right?
in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio was there.
Yeah. My cousin.
Your cousin was there when he got shot.
Sean was there. Yeah, my cousin.
When
Sean
he dead
was there.
when he
Swear
dead
to
assed
God,
him,
bro. Or his wife was there. Anyway,
The worst part is Dimebag got shot because the dude that shot him just loved the band so much.
he loved
and
Pantera.
He thought the
couldn't-
reason that they weren't together was
Yeah,
Dime's fault.
he couldn't understand why the band broke up. He's like, it's your fault. And then they're together on stage. I'm gonna shoot you. Now
Yeah.
I'm really gonna break up.
Have
the band.
you heard?
Now I'm gonna break you up permanently.
Like, it's kind of weird, obviously, but dude, Phil sounds great right now. Have you listened to any of those live
yeah, I've
videos?
seen some of the videos. Yeah, they're great.
with Zach Wilde on guitar, and then I don't know who's playing drums for him. I don't know
drummer
if it's
from
Portland.
Anthrax.
Oh, it is.
Drummer
okay.
from Anthrax.
Is it
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you this. In your experience, who's the best vocalist you've seen live on stage? Like really someone that got your blood pumping. The best one.
That's a good
obviously-
question.
Obviously, that's like a conflict. It could be anything. In my eyes, it'd be Jason.
Chris Cornell with Audio Slave.
Yeah, Chris
Cornell.
Cornell would
Yeah.
be.
You seen him live?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
When they did White Nation Army by
Yeah.
Or Seven Nation Army?
Seven Nation
Yeah,
Army by
it
White
was. Yeah,
Stripes,
yeah.
that was phenomenal.
That was a cover though. So what about when you think he did what's the other one there?
He did a U2 song with the Metallica
No,
lyrics.
not
Oh,
a
it's
cover, not a
Billy-
cover. The Audio Slave song. What was
Like
it?
a Stone.
Like a Stone.
Oh, they're that's what I'm saying. Live.
so
it was-
he shook you.
Yeah.
Dude, did I ever tell you this? So I went to, when I was talking to you about Dorothy and Bad Flower,
Right.
that was Soundgarden headlined Friday night. 10 days later is when Cornell killed himself.
Jesus.
Yeah, I watched Soundgarden, like their last three
Well, Soundgarden was Rage and
no
No,
Soundgarden.
Audio Slave was Rage and Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
okay.
I went to Carolina Rebellion 2017 and saw Chris Cornell 10 days before he kills himself.
I was supposed to see Soundgarden for the first time at Rock on the Range, and he died the night before.
I was supposed to see.
This is
I was
like
supposed
11
to go
days
to.
before
I was supposed
that.
to see Tom Petty at not Red Rocks in Buffalo, and he died. I literally bought tickets, and he died like 3 days later.
So were you still at that festival?
Yeah, I went. Yeah.
So a bunch of those bands still did like a tribute,
Tributes,
like
yes.
Because Sevenfold headlined Sunday night. I think Def Leppard headlined Saturday.
Live.
Def Leppard.
Live did a great tribute for.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yes,
They went real classic rock on that, like Def Leppard.
It's Chris Cornell, bro.
Well, I know it's Chris Cornell, but
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm not. I mean, Def Leppard,
the
Led
best
Zeppelin. Like Chris Cornell looked up to those guys.
Chris Cornell's, besides Freddie Mercury, probably one of the best vocalists I've ever
I will say.
seen.
I will say this. I will say this about Chris Cornell. His lyrics are phenomenal. He's always been a poet. But every single time you hear Chris Cornell sing on a song, you instantly know it's him.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's just it's like bang.
Did you see my comment on the 94 Rocks post of the most definitive rock vocalist?
I don't know that I saw that. No.
So
You're in it for a treat.
You got like 95 comments on it or whatever,
Okay.
and a bunch of people
Oh
said, like,
yeah.
Well,
I do remember
let's
seeing that.
ask
Yeah.
him. Let's ask him.
Everybody said like, Eddie, who do you think?
Yeah, give us your top vocalist.
No, not top vocal, but most definitive. Who do you think is the most, like, when you hear their voice, you're like, okay, I know exactly who that is.
And that's pretty much definitive for frontman. Give us your top 5 vocalists
My
for
top-
rock and roll. Rock and roll.
Let's see.
Let's hey, how would we?
Tom York.
Let's take a little stress off you.
Hang on.
Tom York was a producer. Let's take a little stress off you.
Tom York's the lead singer of Radiohead. He's the most phenomenal vocalist.
Oh,
that
Scott. I'm sorry, Scott Storch is what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Not Tom York.
Tom York is, to me, the greatest vocalist alive. I love that
I'm
guy.
not talking about greatest vocalist. I'm talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
when you hear it, you know exactly.
Your personal opinion.
you
1
know
through
exactly
5.
who that is.
1 through 5.
Zach De La Roche is
Nobody-
definitely there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good one. That's a very good one.
Who else would probably be there? I mean, Chris Cornell.
Recognizable,
Yep.
yeah.
When you hear his
Cornell,
voice, you
yeah.
definitely know. Brent Smith is another one of those that you definitely know.
Who's him? Brent?
Shine Down.
Shine Down. Yo,
When you
Shine
hear
Down.
his
Oh,
voice,
yeah.
you definitely know.
And you know me, dude. How many times I've come in here, I'm like, hey, I'm going to play you this song. I'm going to play this cover. I play it on the acoustic,
Right.
and you're like, that's
Right,
Shine
yeah.
Down's version.
Rain Maida, at least early Our Lady piece, I would say Rain
Really?
Maida.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
Our Lady of Peace?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He's very distinctive.
He's a
as
super
well.
nice
Yeah.
guy, too.
I
you met
used
him?
to be
Yeah, I talked basketball with him.
No, see that's what Billy Corgan.
Superman's dead. And then Starseed.
He goes somewhere out there.
I
Somewhere out
love
there.
Starseed.
Yeah.
But no, that's what
The song is good. The
that was
song
what
is
I
good, but when he said, Starseed, like, I love that lyric.
Well, he's also got like this, like,
And the
little
song
falsetto.
is so good. The song is good. When he, Starseed. I love that.
But that was a post I commented on. I said Billy Corgan has to have the most distinctive.
he's got a very
voice.
definitive voice. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's-
but then you
that's-
just gave me 5 more that I didn't even fucking think about.
Yeah, who's the other guy? Ryan Hardy sounds like him. Not Sister Hazel.
I don't want to be mean.
No, me either. I'm just saying, like, he sounds like him. Not Sister Hazel. It might be the guy who does Starseed there.
No, but
He does 4 a.m. The song.
Yeah, that's Rain Maida. That's Our
Yes.
Lady
Okay.
piece,
Yeah. Same guy. Yep. 100%.
Did you ever go to the Zach Myers show?
Yeah,
at
he
Fat
came out of the
Boys?
studio.
Zach Myers did?
Yeah, that's another funny story. Is I got a phone call on my cell, and I was like, "Yeah, who's this?" He goes, "This is Zach Myers of Shinedown." I was like,
Whoa,
bullshit."
himself called you?
Yes. I was like,
you just like picked up the phone,
yeah.
like, hey, what's up?
I was like, bullshit. I was
Were
like,
you on the air?
No. I was on the air, and I got a phone call, and I was like, I didn't recognize the number, and I was like, who is this? He goes, Zach Myers Shinedown. I was like, who is this?
Get the fuck out of here. You joker.
He
You're
goes,
a joker.
He goes, no, this is Zach. He goes,
Zach and Mac or whatever.
He goes, Leah at the record label gave me your phone number because I'm coming to play Fat Boys, and the clubs wasn't doing any promotion on it. I was wondering if I could stop by the station and hang. I was like, for real? Is this Zach? Is this Zach from Shine? He goes, yes. He goes, I know. He goes, I know it sounds Crazy.
I love that you just
There's
no
no
benefit
way.
of the doubt.
Yeah.
You're like, you're fucking.
And
with
I was
me.
like, all right, well, yeah,
This
come
is
by.
Jake Harris
And then
from-
he came by and hung out for a couple of hours and just like
What?
totally cool dude. Yeah.
Dude, he was wicked. Because I
He
met
was
him that night too, man.
at the
Yeah,
studio?
I was there,
At
yeah.
yours- at
Because
your
Ian
studio?
Wagner opened for
Ian
him that
opened
night.
up the night. Yes. Yeah.
Dude.
Oh, dude, we got stories about Ian Wagner.
I was
boy.
gonna say my dad's got a great story where he gets a call from a random number one day and he picks it up. He's like, "Hello," and he's like, "Yeah, Kyle." And he's like, "Yeah." I don't know if he's British, but he's like, "Kyle." He's like, yeah.
He's not.
He's not. No. You don't even know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, we
But
do.
he goes, "Yeah, Kyle," and he's like, "Yeah, who's this?" He goes, "This is Les Paul." He goes, "Fuck you," and he clicks, hang up, and then one of his best friends comes over with like a week later with a napkin signed by Les Paul. He goes, "Dude, who the fuck hangs up on Les Paul?" Come on. So he literally was like at a convention.
Dude,
he was
that's
like, my buddy's
crazy.
a huge
Your
fan.
dad literally
He's
told
like,
Les Paul to go fuck
he
himself.
fuck off.
He goes, you've got to call my buddy. He's never going to believe this. Literally,
Hey,
Les
fuck
Paul
off.
dialed him from his like a random number. And then my dad goes, fuck
Oh, that's
you, and
fucking
hangs
awesome.
up.
Dude,
I didn't
that's
answer the
insane.
phone when Scott Weiland called once. I just didn't answer the phone.
You ever got yelled at?
Really?
Yeah.
You ever got yelled at by anyone famous? Like, you ever got like?
Well, hang on.
Like,
Before we go to that.
like demoralized.
One time, and it's why I hate Collective Soul. Is
See
Yeah.
me how to run and teach me how to fly.
I hate those.
I
bands.
was Rudy Lancer. I'm
Why?
just
What
gonna
did-
go
what did-
die.
What did Collective Soul ever do to you?
What the-
you go to radio stations host bands all the time, and when I was in Fort Myers, it was almost like a weekly thing. And our boss always sent me out to the clubs, and I would go and I'd bring up the band. So I'm supposed to go out there, and it's like my boss expected me to get up there, toss out T-shirts, say, "Hey, thanks for coming out," blah blah blah. And I went there, and the tour manager was kind of being a dick about it. And then my boss is like, "You're letting him go up on stage." And he's like, "We play the music, we're playing the songs. If you want that to continue, you're letting him go up on stage." So he's like, "Fine, you can go up on stage."
So it was officially your responsibility.
Yeah. So I went up
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" Da 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 da. Tossed out a couple of T-shirts and I came down and my boss is like, "Dude, couldn't hear shit." He goes, "They had your mic turned off the whole time." I was like, "Really?"
You had no wedge monitors, no nothing? Like,
He only,
was just shouting
he
at the-
did. He had it coming through the monitors. He had it coming through the monitors only.
So you could hear yourself.
I
but
could hear myself,
no
but
one
nobody
else
else
could hear
did.
shit. Oh my!
And I was like,
goodness.
"Wow, I just look like a total asshole up there."
Yeah, that's what
And
Jake looks like every time. He
Always.
plays.
So I,
Why is he taking his shoes off?
so I mean, nobody like yelled at me or anything like that. But yeah, I've always had a thing against.
so you don't
Collective Soul
hate
since then.
Collective Soul, you hate their sound, man.
I hate their tour. Well,
he hates
I
their
also
sound
did-
man so much he fucking hates the
Yeah.
band.
That's bullshit, though. You know what I'm saying? Like this
Well, there
guy's
was
out
no-
here trying to do you a fucking favor.
There was no reason for it. He was just like, "I'm gonna
Give
have
me
some
a
fun with this guy."
dude, Lance. Give me a. We're gonna sign off here. Give me a horror story.
Horror story.
We've gotten a lot of good stories. Give me a horror story. Give me something that like really shook you.
Doesn't even have to be about like interviews. It just literally
Yeah,
like what's a
anything.
crazy story.
Yeah,
that
give
maybe
give me something crazy that like it went south.
There's never really been any that's gone south.
I
That's
mean, how can
terrifying.
you be a bad guy to this man? You know what I'm saying?
No, I know. I just wanted to hear one. Maybe there
But he
was
doesn't
one.
have
He
one.
doesn't have one.
As
All right,
far
so
as
give me.
something
All right, you don't got a bad one. Give me like
Is
the
there-
coolest one.
I was gonna say, is there like something in your or something in your life that happened where it's like, like how did all of that line up coincidentally? Like, is there something where you're just like statistically that shouldn't have happened, but somehow like it did?
Yes.
And you know what I mean?
Yes,
Where it's just
yeah.
like by the forces of nature, this happened, and then like this, anything like that, or
Anytime you ever walked into yourself and was like, oh I got.
Well, I
lucky.
mean, it's like I told you, it's like the interaction with Dave Grohl, the little
That's
tete-a-tete
so
with my
badass.
wife, or hanging out with Everlast and him rolling a joint right next to you. It's seeing Sully Erna of Godsmack stage dive and then knock out the security guard before going back up on stage, or
See, that's what we're talking about.
such
See,
a-
you left that out.
Well,
knocking the security
that-
guard
that
out.
was-
That's-
that was
that's
when-
what we're trying to get at.
that
Bubby.
was when they had just come out, and whatever was their first single. We got them to play a gig for $1,500 at a show in Fort Myers. Everclear was the headliner. Cracker was also on the bill, and Finger 11 and Godsmack was like
Finger 11,
the fourth and the last band going
Dude,
up.
Godsmack. I had a CD case, a Godsmack CD case. before I even knew who Godsmack was, I got it for Christmas. And what filled it was Creed, Human Clay, and the Los Lonely Boys. And that's fucking funny as fuck.
Also, is there a difference between Cracker and Uncle Cracker?
No.
Yeah.
That's just
Uncle Cracker's a DJ. Wasn't he the DJ for Kid Rock?
Everyone
but he's
was a
also the
DJ
guy
for Kid Rock.
And then Cracker started off as Camper Van Beethoven, and then they
Camper Van Beethoven?
yeah.
How the fuck you go from that Cracker to Camper Van
Well,
Beethoven?
they started off as Camper Van Beethoven, and then they
But what's that Uncle Cracker song, man? It's like a big
every
Smile.
single one.
was it
You make me
Smile or
smile
something like
the
that?
sun.
No,
Fall
man.
out of bed. That's Uncle
That's
Cracker.
not one.
No,
I'm thinking
Uncle
of.
Cracker. He did that one joint.
It's like just on like one
Yeah,
string
yeah.
of
No,
the
I can
guitar.
see that's the worst part. I can always see the chords and the guitar in my head. Like I know how to play it, but I don't know the melody.
Anyway,
Cracker
sorry.
did Low, Teen Angst, What the World Needs Now, Get Off This. But
Hey,
You like-
feeling low. That's Cracker.
That's Cracker.
Okay.
No, out the window. You know.
So what's that Toady song?
Toadies is Possum Kingdom.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Possum Kingdom.
That's what
Now,
that's a
those
famous
guys are
song.
phenomenal
Yeah.
live,
No, they're
too.
very good.
That first album, Rubberneck, is maybe one of the most underrated albums ever.
See, that's what kills me about you guys. Like, I know the song by the band, but then you're like, oh, the album, Rubber.
The whole album.
He does that same shit. He's like,
Like,
oh, that's from the album. I'm like,
Backslider,
dude, I know that. I
Away.
know that one song.
Well,
You know?
Lancer, if I could borrow 3 more minutes from you before we cut this.
Okay.
Let me give you a 5-second speed run, right?
Okay.
Favorite band?
Favorite band?
Just say whatever.
Radio-
last
Just, yeah,
time.
Radiohead.
Fuck that.
Radio. Okay, least favorite band?
Least favorite band.
Trapped. I said it for you.
He laughed. That might be right.
Bro, Trap gets a bad rap too, man.
They're okay. Chris Taylor Brown
All
is
right, how about
kind of
this?
psycho.
Oh,
but
we'll end it this way. I know those are pretty.
Yeah,
general
but what is
questions.
he?
I asked
what
this everyone.
exactly does he say that's not factual?
he kind of goes off the rails sometimes, though.
Everyone does. We all go off the rails.
But
I
don't
get
know.
you.
I like
okay.
I like to reword it a specific way. Like I hate asking people like, "What's your favorite song?" Because my favorite song changes every 6 months. I would have to. I'm going to ask you this, Lancer, before we sign off. What if you had to listen to one song for the rest of your life? What would it be?
Phew, that's good.
It might not be your favorite song, but if you had to listen to one song on repeat for the rest of your life, what song would you pick? I'm going to ask you all this, too. I want your input. I want yours. Think about it. You would, too, Jake.
I already know the answer to this question.
Perfect, because I've done this about
Maybe
3 podcasts.
Digital Bath by Deftones.
Deftones.
Get
Yeah.
the fuck out of here, really?
Really?
Yeah, Digital
See,
Bath.
That's different. Okay.
I would ask.
curveball.
Let's follow up. Why?
Yeah.
What about that song?
Is that
It's atmospheric. It's
does it make you? Does it make you sad or does it make you happy?
No, it kind of puts me in a contemplative state. Like it's like I feel I can get creative or something like that. Like if I were listening to Radiohead.
Oh, it inspires you.
Yeah, if I were listening to Radiohead Kid A on repeat,
Yeah.
I could sit there and write because I wrote an entire book by listening to Radiohead on repeat. If I was
Okay.
going to listen,
But that's forever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
there's a
one
bunch of
song for
songs
the
like
rest
of
like
your
right
life.
now.
If
I'm
I had to listen
like
to one
right now,
song-
I'm obsessed with. Wouldn't be the song I'd want to listen to
Right.
the rest of
That's
my
exactly
life.
my point. I'm like,
But
it might
I-
not be your favorite song,
but that's
what-
why I'm saying Digital Bath is one that I know from my history that anytime I hear it, I always turn it up. So if I
Okay.
was listening to it on repeat,
Yeah.
I could do it because and another one may be Danzig Can't Speak.
Danzig?
Wow. Okay.
Dude, that's why I ask these questions. That's crazy. I mean, I told you a couple months ago, I was like, dude, and I've told you a million times, I'm like, if I had to listen to one song, it's not necessarily my favorite song right now, but if I had to listen to one song the rest of my life, it would be Your Song by Mayday Parade.
Okay, when we did the Gino interview, we both said you be the anchor, but
Yeah.
the audio got all messed up, and that actually
It's either one of those. Like if I wanted something heavy,
They're both great.
If I wanted something heavy, it'd be Your Song. But if I wanted to like cry myself to sleep, it'd be
I've
But it's the
actually-
same band.
I've changed my answer since then too. To Welcome to the Black Parade.
That is
Honestly,
ridiculous,
no.
and you don't even want to play it,
No,
queer.
that's why I don't want to play it.
That's why I bought that
respect
jacket,
it
the
Lance.
so much.
one fucking
To look
kid,
like My Chemical Romance. up
Lancer.
there.
We booked this show.
Yes.
No, hang on. Can I talk to my?
We
can
booked
I
this
say
show, and he's the only one scared to play the back parade. Lav is like, I don't care what you guys are afraid of, what you guys are worried about. We're playing this song.
That song is sacred.
So get it out of your head. Lav's like, get it out of your head that we're not playing it because we are. So all your all of your insecurities.
So you wouldn't do that like karaoke or anything?
Yeah, no, all of your insecurities and shit need to go out the window because we're playing it.
I know we're playing. Can I talk about my song that I would hear for the rest? Dude,
Yes.
and I've been and honest to God, that's an expensive flyer. Do not ruin
It's
that.
not. We have 5 more.
We have 4 more, and I paid for it. Anyway, so, dude, here's a real thing. And I've been saying this for the last 15 years, and I get laughed at. But I've had the same answer since I was 14. If I had to listen to one song the rest of my life, Higher by Creed.
No, I can agree with that. I told you I was a big Creed fan when we met. That's how
Have
me and
I-
Lav met at a
I probably
fucking.
would've guessed
Me
that
and
was your
Lav,
song.
No, dude.
me
'cause
and
here's
Lav
the-
met at a fucking house party
Here's the kicker, though.
because we were the only 2 people that play guitar.
I haven't listened to that song in 8 years. But
You play it
there's
really
just
well.
something about it that gets me fucking going,
The
bro. You know what I'm
lyrics,
saying?
the lyrics are incredible.
They're on, dude. Scott
The lyrics are incredible.
Lance hung out with the dude.
Like,
You know
look
what I'm
at
saying?
Jake's dumbass band. Yeah, like they're lucky. The instrumentals are fucking insane. They're wicked lucky. The instrumentals are fucking. I couldn't.
I'm talking forever.
Dude, I couldn't play a cover of this boy's band songs if it took me 6 months. I could have 6 months of time. I could not play a cover of his band songs.
We used to.
But you know what the cool part about his
Lance
songs are
could.
is the lyrics make you want to cut your wrists from here to the armpit. I'm telling you,
No, they
he's-
don't. Like,
him and his listen, him and his brother are incredible musicians. Okay,
he knows. They've been on his radio
they
show.
play pop
Evan,
punk.
you
You've heard
act
their
like
band.
he's from
But-
fucking
but-
Arkansas.
But if you listen to the words,
knows who they
If you
are.
listen to the words that are in their
You
songs,
still owe me
it'll.
an acoustic set too.
I do. I know.
Yeah, you do.
Here we
See
go.
what you did, Evan. No, it's funny. When Alex and I first started writing songs,
But I
like,
can't get over this kid.
for our EP like fucking 7-8 years ago, Evan would come over and we'd all hang out and like play them acoustically before they were recorded or released or anything. Evan would go home, post the wrong lyrics on
Yeah.
Facebook
Yeah.
of songs that weren't even released yet, and they
Yeah.
would come over and be like, "Dude, those are the wrong lyrics." He'd be like, "What
100%.
are they?" And we tell him, he'd be like, "My shit's way hotter. Get on my fucking level." It's like, yo, it's our songs. You're just getting them wrong,
Dude,
man.
that's why we're on the podcast. I've known you guys all since we were fucking little kids.
I know.
Yeah, I used to
no.
go. I used to just because they were fucking 17, 18, and I was 21, 22. So I'd leave my hostess job at Applebee's, right, and go over to their house after because they were the ones selling me weed. So I'd go over there and pick up a couple grams of weed. No, literally, that's what happened. I'd go over there, I'd get some weed or whatever, and they'd be sitting there and playing guitar and shit. And like we were sitting there like, okay, like, and they played, Dad Gad, Open C, and shit like that. So I learned all that shit, and then they're just playing shit, and I'm just like, I'm in a working rock band. I'm getting paid at bars to play music, right? I got a gig 3 times a week
it's
with this
not
cat.
that impressive that we each make $72.
That's exactly what I'm trying to explain. Like, I'm literally getting paid to play music every weekend with this kid at the bars, and then I'm sitting in a bedroom at 10:30 at night with a fucking 14-year-old and his 16-year-old brother, and I'm sitting there like, you guys are way better than me.
And he was trying to convince us that we had to stop
And I'm
writing
trying to write
originals and just
lyrics.
play the bar.
I'm like, no, I think the lyrics should be this, and they're like, you need to knock it off, dude.
Actually, Alex always brings up because one of the first like lyrics we ended up putting in was like we said like you might as well, and Evan had typed it out mind
as well.
and then we were like, dude, it's might as well. He's like, are you dumb? He's
Do
like,
you-
he's like, when you're talking to someone, like you might as well do this.
Do you know Swedish?
So adamant, and we googled it, and he's literally like, I was lied to my whole life. So adamant though, like he doesn't even know the English language, and he's trying to tell us that.
Dude, that's every band. I was just telling Lamb this earlier. We got that show coming up. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dude, I really haven't had the drive to like learn the song, like more songs these past couple weeks. I was like, because every time I learn them and I think I've learned them, I show up to band practice and I'm just wrong.
Yep.
And I'm like, dude, I might as well just fucking
I
might as well not kill myself learning these songs and just show up to practice and let them teach it because that's what they're doing anyway.
Yeah, that makes
Dude,
sense.
believe me, this band, I was so far out of my league in this band, Lancer. When we put this fucking band together, it was Lav's idea. He's like, dude, let's do a fucking pop punk show. And I haven't played a live gig on guitar in 4 years at this point. Neither has he. And I was like, okay.
I was on tour
Let's
last year.
do a pop punk show. And he's like, well, okay, yeah, you were in a famous round. Either way. And so I didn't play it, and I'm like, okay, fuck, like whatever. So we get him.
He knows the whole story. Let's give our boy a
Dude,
send
I was
off.
fucked up about it. I'm like, dude, I'm the least credentialed person in this room.
All right.
Why am I here?
Anyway, Lance.
Jake, tell me, why am I here?
I wish I
You
knew.
can't. You can't tell me.
Lav's
Can
about
you?
to tell you.
You can't tell me. No, Lav's mad.
I'm not mad. I'm just saying that Lance, it's late. He's got kids and shit, and I think we should call it. And I want to fucking thank him so much for coming here, man.
Absolutely,
this was
man.
so awesome, dude.
I'll do it again.
Yeah, not again.
Dude, we'd love to have you back, man.
We are 100% gonna have you on again.
Yeah, I'd love to.
You have a lot of stories. To
I got
tell.
more stories. Absolutely.
We'll come up with all that and tell some more of your stories, and maybe you'll even have us on the radio show and let us promote our show coming
Anytime.
up. You know
Yo,
what I
maybe
mean?
flash those chucks to the camera.
Dude, I've been
Yeah,
looking
dude.
at
No,
him.
those are Vans,
He's got
baby.
a Van sock,
Vans.
too.
Fuck, man, those are tight.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, Lancer, 94.1.
Thank you guys.
WOTT, the only station that really rocks. You know,
The only station that really rocks. You know what I'm saying?
dude, you got that.
You do.
That's all I got.
You could, you could do
New
like
voice
little
guy.
voice acting work if you wanted to. I think you could.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Yeah.
but like
I
I said,
definitely couldn't,
we got a
but I
lot more.
appreciate
We
it.
got a lot more to touch on. We really, really, super seriously appreciate you.
Yeah,
coming
dude, this
on.
was unreal, man.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate
even
it.
having you in our house, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's. Is there anything else you want us
Yeah,
to plug, man?
give us
Like
a sign off, man.
the radio station, dude. The radio. It's the best fucking music station in the area right
Thank you.
now.
I would
No,
agree.
Dude, it's dude, and this don't even like go get too blown up about this. I've heard from multiple people, even from other radio stations that say Lancer.
It's your voice.
They go, Lancer is the best product they have over at that fucking building. Like, you're the fucking man, dude. Literally, bro. And it's not just us saying that; it's a lot of people saying that.
There's,
bro.
well, thank you. I love what I do. Yeah, I've been doing it for a lot of years. I love the North Country. I love Watertown. I love being a part of this community. You know, it's been good to me. Oz, and we haven't really talked about Oz. Oz is my right hand guy, and I would love
to get you both on.
Yeah,
I
dude.
couldn't do. Yeah, I couldn't do half of what I do without him. So he's super amazeballs. I love that guy to death. And yeah,
I met Oz before I met you.
Yeah, well, Oz has been on OTT longer. He's been on for 20
He
years.
did the live shows.
20 years Oz has been on there?
Yeah, man,
dude.
20 years.
Okay, so we gotta definitely.
Yeah, Oz is.
That's who I grew up listening because he always used to do the sinners own the night.
You got
You know what I'm
the
saying?
one
Like
in
I used to love listening to that. And then he does mandatory Metallica,
He does
right?
mandatory
dude,
Metallica.
No, Oz is the
Dude.
fucking man, bro.
Oh, he does mandatory material.
Oz does mandatory and
9:30 at night,
local
right?
licks.
9:30.
And local licks.
Oh,
you
yeah.
do
I do the 90s at
Island.
noon, and I do Island
Island
song.
Misfits, yeah.
That's my baby. That's where I get to
Island
go.
Misfits, hell yeah.
On Saturday nights from 8 to 10, I play whatever I want to play.
Yeah.
So I play a lot of deeper stuff. I play older stuff. I play funny stuff. I play local bands. I play.
We should plug that.
Play
live on the
unsigned
podcast.
bands.
We
We
should
just did.
set
You'll
our
even-
shit up.
it's
We
not-
should set our shit up there.
No, but it's not like you'll even do like a comedy sketch or
That's
something.
what I'm saying.
too.
We
Like,
should-
it's not,
we
not
should-
just music,
we should
right?
set
on,
up-
on Lancer's
Yeah,
Island
I'll
Misfits.
play some crazy effed up phone calls.
Yeah,
at
dude,
that time
yeah.
too.
prank yankers.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll die right now.
No, dude, that's awesome.
Wrong numbers. It's what I usually get. I get great wrong numbers. So
No, that's
Oh my
awesome,
God.
bro.
Hey, Lancer, dude, again, we couldn't be more honored to have you on.
Thanks,
we
guys.
really,
I
really
appreciate it.
appreciate you giving us the time of day.
And not
And-
only just here, but again, like letting us come into 94 Rock
Yeah,
and giving us the
WOTT.
time of
Dude,
day
Dude,
to
those
interview.
doors are always open, man. So anytime you guys want to come in and talk again, I mean, feel free.
We
Yeah.
appreciate it, man.
And I expect you when you got something.
The
new.
acoustic
Yes,
set,
yes,
I
yeah.
owe you, man. I absolutely owe you.
Well, I think
We'll-
it was
we'll
like right
coordinate it.
around COVID when everything
was,
hit,
yeah.
and we shut everything down.
About time
Nobody
you
was
guys
coming
looked
in,
at each other.
I know, seriously.
I know, man. It's like I
know.
apologize. I'm sorry, man.
Yes,
No,
I know.
it's a weird angle, man. I know I try to get up here, but no, we definitely will get in, man, as soon as we can, for sure.
All right, boys.
Well, thanks again,
Hey,
brother.
thanks
Yes.
again, man. We're gonna have you on soon for sure
Okay.
because you got a lot more stories to tell. I'm sure.
I'd love to come in. So.
Absolutely.
We got a couch.
Cool thing, it pulls out. I know.
He gets out there fucking.
You know what I'm saying?